radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Night. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man. How you doing? Today's Tuesday, July 20th, 2021. 202 days into the new year, only 163 days left. Let's do this, man. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of nowhere. A total undisclosed location. But it is beautiful. It is. It is truly beautiful. Inside and outside. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planets. Race Hobbs. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? Yeah, man. What a day. What a day. But I got to tell you, looking forward to tonight because we have very special guest. Duke Sullivan of World Bigfoot Radio joins us for the first time. All Bigfoot, all big feet, all squatching all the time tonight. Looking forward to that. Tomorrow night, right here on this very program, James Fox. James Fox is back to take his UFO victory lap, and that is going down tomorrow night. And then Thursday, it's Fader night with Ron Keel here to help me man the phones. And it's so funny. I sent Ron the banner for the show, and there was a typo in it, wrong date, right? And it said the 21st. And Ron wrote me back. And he said, oh, man, he said there was a typo. There was a typo originally, and we fixed it. And sent it to him, and then he wrote me back. There was another typo, man. But I did a little, I forget how he worded it. I think he said I used a little redneck graphic adjustment, and I fixed it and got it out there. But Thursday night, Ron Keel right here, the Metal Cowboy. Cannot wait for that. It's going to be great. It's going to be helping me man the phones all night long, taking your phone calls, answering your questions, going to be telling some stories. And I just can't wait for that. Ron is the absolute very best. So what a great week that we've got lined up in front of us. I made the announcement today. On Monday, Travis Walton is joining us. And I'm just going to leave that right there. Just going to leave that right there. Travis Walton on the show this Monday, the 26th. There's your sneak peek for the week right there. All right, let's get the show cracking. I wanted to say, and I don't know if you guys have made the adjustment yet, but I did. Today, I switched over to the new version of TweetDeck. That's right. Did you know there was a new version of TweetDeck? I didn't. Got this notification today and kind of twisted my arm. I really didn't have a choice. I've got a choice to go back It's interesting. Down the lower left-hand corner, it says, leave TweetDeck preview. So this is the preview of the new version of TweetDeck. And I never liked the new version of anything. Nope. I still, it's been, 6 months, maybe a year. I still don't like the new version of Facebook. And I just curse at it every single day. I do. But the new version of TweetDeck, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's great. I don't like that you can't adjust the column size. And the notifications in the first column, what you need to have is it's like half width. And then the other columns are full. And it's kind of, but that part of it, I can live with it. I have to go. This is a big monitor. These three that are in front of me are too big. And I've got to go full screen to get this so I can read it. But I normally have TweetDeck much smaller so I can layer things and see stuff underneath it. But I like it. So, and these notifications, this half column notification thing. But in the sandbox, hashtag F2B in the sandbox, I want to hear from everybody. Are you using the new version of TweetDeck? It's nice, man. It's really, really nice. I like it. I like it. I thought Twitter kind of abandoned, TweetDeck like 5-6 years ago. I think they even made an announcement, we're done. But they kept it going, and now we've got this new version up. So there you go. Others liked your reply. I did hear about this, Katya. I'm looking at your tweet now. Did you hear that Chief Golden Light Eagle? Yes, I heard about it. Rest in peace. And and I heard. I didn't get anything official, but I hear you. I can't believe he's gone either. And she's making a memorial video tomorrow. So Katya, I would love to see it and get it posted so I can get it out there for everybody. Yeah, I did hear the news. And, all right. So, let's get going. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You saw what I've been doing on Twitter today. Yeah. Well, you want to follow all of that mess, you can do it at JChurchRadio. The sandbox is hashtag F2B on Twitter. I already jumped over to YouTube and said hello over there. Man, Spreaker is way over there, and I don't have the ability to just, spin around and hang out on Spreaker anymore. But I just want to say hi. There's Jean Vito. I can see that from here, and I can see Catalina. And that's about it. So hello to everybody over in the Spreaker chat. And, of course, KGRA, the Bunker Cam, Facebook, YouTube. You guys are troublemakers. You guys are troublemakers over there. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Let's get to the breaking news. It was announced right before showtime tonight. Utility equipment from Pacific Gas and Electric Company, otherwise known as here in California, PG&E, may have sparked the Dixie Fire, which has scorched more than 30,000 acres in Butte and Plumas counties over the past week. All of this according to a report the utility company filed this past Sunday. PG&E said in the report submitted to the California Public Utilities Commission that an employee responding to an outage Tuesday noticed a blown fuse at Crested Dam in a heavily forested area of Butte County around the Feather River Canyon. And that employee said that there was a fire right there at the base of the trees, and we know what happened next. PG&E responsible once again. Well, it happened. I'm sure all of you saw it. There was a lot of memes created today. Virgin tycoon Richard Branson congratulated fellow billionaire Jeff Bezos for a successful flight to the edge of space. Bezos flew aboard the New Shepard rocket and capsule designed by his company Blue Origin. The Amazon CEO has long dreamed of carrying humans into space and hopes to offer commercial space flights for wealthy passengers in the near future. However, he was personally beaten into the cosmos by Branson, who blasted aboard Virgin Galactic's Unity 22 spaceplane on July 11th, fronting off Bezos by just over a week. Those are my words. Bezos was joined on this trip by his brother Mark, female aviation pioneer Wally Funk, have to say that because of the name, Wally, and Oliver Damon, an 18-year-old Dutch teenager whose wealthy father paid for his ticket. The capsule carrying Jeff Bezos and the other passengers successfully landed in the West Texas desert. Now, and I was reading about, I was watching and I thought, man, this is fast. The whole flight, it was like 11 minutes. That's it. You get 3 minutes up, up top, 3 minutes, and then boom, you come back down. Reusable rocket and all of that. Everything landed safely. But 3 minutes, that's it. The landing with the parachutes in the desert, I was thinking, man, that's going fast. That's going really fast. But then poof, that little booster rocket at the end, pretty soft landing, pretty cool. And I still can't get over the size of those windows on that capsule. But there you go. Pretty exciting. 11 minutes today. Also announced today, amateur astronomer Kai Lai has discovered a new moon of Jupiter. While it hasn't received official designation yet, it would bring the tally of Jovian satellites to 80. Lai reported the discovery to the Minor Planet mailing list on June 30th and has submitted it for publication as a Minor Planet electronic circular. So there you go. 80 moons around Jupiter. Let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Sandra O. I just got to do it. She's so cool. Sandra O today is 50. And she's been great in so many things, but Arliss. Remember Arliss? She was great in Arliss. Judy Greer today is 46. Amazing in Arrested Development. I like that series. That was a good one. Carlos Santana, the God, today is 74 years old. I'm going to tell a quick Carlos story. Years ago, working at Guitar Center, this is like 1993, 1994. And we're bringing in Carlos into the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It's called the Rock Walk, and he puts his hands in the wet concrete and this big celebration. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, Carlos is there. But a friend of mine, I went over to his house one day, Japanese guy, and he says, I'm Carlos Santana's personal photographer. I said, really? And we were doing studio stuff, and he takes me into the section of his house, all of these framed Carlos prints. And I go, man, Carlos is the best. And he goes, he is. He goes, pick out 2. I was like, what? So I do. I pick out 2. Boom, boom. Take them home. A couple of years later, we're doing this rock walk thing, and I take the photographs in with me. And I didn't know if I was going to meet Carlos, but I ended up not only meeting him, but hanging out with him for what seemed like hours. And we're in my office at Guitar Center. And I said, Carlos, I want to show you, and I take out the pictures. And he goes, oh, this is my photographer. These are great. Yeah, these are. I said, will you sign them? Absolutely. Took the frames apart, took them out. And he signs them for me, and it was just a really cool moment. I didn't know what it was going to be like. I was like, man, is this cool to do? Turned out to be dude is on ice. So there you go. Happy birthday, Carlos Santana, 74 years old. Kim Carnes today is, you ready for this? Kim Carnes is 76. Betty Davis eyes. Twisted Sisters, J.J. French, today is 67. And Pearl Jam's one of my favorite guitar players ever, Stone Gossard, today is 56 years old. And speaking of Stone and Pearl Jam, Our dead guy's birthday today is Chris Cornell. 1964 to 2017, died at the age of 52. Chris, of course, was the lead vocalist and rhythm guitarist for the rock band Soundgarden and Audio Slave. Chris will always be known as someone who not only changed music, but he changed the world. He was nominated for 16 Grammy Awards, winning 3. He was voted rock's greatest singer by readers of Guitar World, ranked number 4 on the list of heavy metal's all-time top 100 vocalists by Hit Parader, number 9 on the list of best lead singers of all time by Rolling Stone magazine, and number 12 on MTV's 22 greatest voices in music. It was around 12:15 a.m. on May 18th, 2017, when his bodyguard found him unconscious in the bathroom of his hotel room, shortly after performing with Soundgarden at the Fox Theater in Detroit. The cause of death was officially ruled as suicide by hanging. He was just 52 years old. On this day in history, 1969, Neil Armstrong says, "That's one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind." While stepping off the lunar module Eagle, Armstrong became the first human to walk on the surface of the moon. Yeah. Fader fact. Here you go. I mean, I'm always excited when I get to the Fader fact. And especially this one. Fader fact. The original Applebee's location, which opened in Decatur, Georgia, was originally called TJ Applebee's RX for edibles and elixirs. That's right. And that is your Fader fact tonight, right here. Duke Sullivan of World Bigfoot Radio joins us for the very first time. Want to remind everybody, tomorrow night, James Fox is here. He's going to be taking his UFO victory lap. And then on Thursday, it's Fader night. Not just any Fader night. Ron Keel is here to help me man the phones. We're going to go open lines all night long with Ron Keel. That's right. Your calls, your conversation, UFOs, conspiracy, time travel, the paranormal, supernatural, lost history, and music. Yeah, we're going to do both kinds of music. We're going to do country and Western. Yeah, and a little rock and roll. It's Ron Keel. All right, Hot on Your Heels. Man, I listened to Hot on Your Heels today. Man. I mean, I always love that album, the original Steeler album, but just you go back and you listen to it today. Holy crap. And I was, what, like 1983, 84? Man, what a great album. Okay. Rick Fox, Hot on Your Heels. You thought I was going to say Yngwie. Nah, Ron Keel. Ron was great on that record. All right. Jeez. Where am I at? Let me hit this River Moon coffee again. God, man, it's so good. It's already half gone. Here's a call from Indianapolis. Mac Daddy, I'm on the air. I'm only picking up because it's you. I'll call you tomorrow.
I just
Okay.
tried to listen and it said you weren't on there.
Oh, there you go. I'm not on. All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
See you, buddy.
What is he talking about? Hold on for a second. Let me see. No, I'm live there. I'm live there. What? That's Indianapolis, man. See, that's what happens. You need to go to White Castle. You need to go to White Castle. All right. River Moon Coffee, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. So, earlier this afternoon, I was on with Christina Gomez. I was on her live stream, Mysteries with a History. And I was supposed to be on for 30 minutes. Okay, all right, seriously, I was supposed to be on for 30 minutes. And 2 hours blew by like it was nothing. Seriously. Couldn't believe it. It was really funny. I was watching the clock. I had stuff to do. And I was like, okay, there's 15 minutes. You know, Christina, we got to wrap it another 15. I looked up at the clock. Another 45 minutes went by. The next thing you know, we burned off over 2 hours live. And it was wonderful. It was really cool. But, and thank you for that, Christina. I stepped all over you today, and I didn't mean to do that. But Christina got me off of thinking about some of this drama that's going around right now in social media. And obviously Travis Walton, and we'll talk about that with Travis on Monday. But back to the point. Christina got me off of that, and I was so thankful to just go. Just go. And Christina, you're a hero. I mean, you cleared my head today. And Christina kicked back and let me yap for 2 hours. And we were done at 2 hours. I was good for another 2. I could have kept on going. But it got me thinking after I was done, where I don't talk about this stuff enough. I don't. And sometimes I just need to get it out. And one of the things that we talked about a lot, was about how frigging big our universe really is. And today with Christina, I started to rattle off numbers, and I'm stating these things that we're talking about, you know, astrophysics and physics and the size of everything, and I'm rattling them off, and I had to stop. I mean, after when I was thinking, man, do I really know all of this stuff? Because I went into the zone. And I didn't even realize that this knowledge poured out of me like it did. And it's because I'm passionate. But this is the deal. You really got to listen to me right now. This is the deal. How big is it? How big is the universe? Well, as big as I want to make it. And it's big. As big as I want to make it, where we look at just our Milky Way, and our Milky Way is already big. It's 150,000 light years across. It'll take you 150,000 years at the speed of light just to go across our galaxy. Our galaxy is medium-sized. It's medium. There's much bigger ones out there, and there's smaller ones too, but here we are, our Milky Way, 150,000 light years across. It's got 500 billion stars, probably more. And each one of those stars has a planet in it. That's 500 billion planets, and 80 billion of those planets are Earth-like in the Goldilocks zone. That's how big our Milky Way is. Planets are everywhere. Stars are everywhere. You walk outside, every single star you see in the sky has a planet on it. How many people are looking back at us going, hey, what's up, man? Nice planet. I don't know, but there's a lot of life out there. But if you take all of that a step further, because as big as our Milky Way sounds, right? Our universe is bigger. Our universe is so big, we don't know how big it actually is. Our universe has 1 trillion Milky Ways in it. 1 trillion. And that's a guesstimate. We don't even know how many galaxies have disappeared, gone over the cosmic horizon, traveling at faster than the speed of light. We will never know what is actually out there and how big those numbers really are. We don't know. We don't know, and we will never know. And when I said today that on planet Earth, the individual grains of sand on this planet, on every beach, on every desert, everywhere, grains of sand, there are more stars in the universe. And as crazy as that sounds, it's like, there can't be that many stars. There just can't be. Grains of sand. Think of the biggest beach you've ever been on. I'm talking about the entire Earth. Okay? Now, how big is that, and how big is I'm really making it sound? If you think about it, our universe is actually tiny. Because space out there, beyond the edge of our universe, that is expanding at the speed of light, all of it is forever. That's how big everything is. Our Milky Way, tiny. Our planet, tiny. By the time you get outside of the Milky Way, our planet is gone, disappeared. Those grains of sand I'm talking about, insignificant. You keep backing out of that and you start looking at the outside of our Milky Way. You expand out of that. You see Andromeda and Sagittarius and everything else that's out there. And you keep backing up. You get out. There are universes just like ours forever. And those universes look like stars. That's how big everything is. And I really, really started to think about that. It's forever. And forever big is huge. So you want to ask me, you want to say to me, you want to question if we are alone in the universe? Stop with all of that. Just stop. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Tonight on this program, Duke Sullivan of World Bigfoot Radio. I am so excited about this. Duke is joining us for the first time, by the way. Tomorrow night right here, James Fox is back. Gonna say it again. It's so deserved. He is taking his UFO victory lap. Thursday night, Fader night, Ron Keel. That's right. We're doing both kinds. Country and Western. He's joining me for Fader night all night long. That's right, helping me man the phones and answer your questions. There you go. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back after this short break with Duke Sullivan. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from Rivermoon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all Rivermoon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Fate or not, when you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Duke Sullivan of World Bigfoot Radio joins us for the first time. Tonight, it's all Bigfoot, big feet. We are squatching. Brian Duke Sullivan is a Bigfoot researcher from Montana. He saw his first Bigfoot in 1972 when he was just 10 years old. He has been researching Bigfoot for well over 40 years and has had multiple sightings. His intense interest in Bigfoot revolves around the behavioral attributes of these creatures versus proving their existence. Duke is also an extremely well-versed and self-described conspiracy theorist and has collaborated with Wes Germer from Sasquatch Chronicles on programs such as Duke's Conspiracy Corner and the Renegade podcast, as well as being a frequent guest on Sasquatch Chronicles, in addition to being a guest on Strange Familiars and the Bigfoot Outlaws. And I would like to welcome for the first time, I'm excited, Duke Sullivan. Duke, good evening, my man. How you doing?
This is one small step for a researcher, one giant footprint for a Sasquatch.
My man.
53 years ago today, Neil Armstrong had to commemorate that. Howdy, everybody. Glad to be here. Love y'all. Let's have some fun, Bigfoot fun.
Yeah, absolutely, Duke. And you get the first-time guest disclaimer, and which is this. Duke, it's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends, and where that conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends, it ends. But we're going to end as friends. There you go. You ready? I'm just going to tell everybody. Everybody knows I'm a big coffee guy. I have my own coffee brand, and I like to think that I drink a lot of coffee. Duke has got a 1 gallon. He's got a 1 gallon coffee cup, and I couldn't believe when I thought it was like a fisheye lens, Duke.
What that actually is a Tampa Bay Buccaneers beer mug. It's glass, and it's got their skull with the little handkerchief around its head on. It's just made out of glass. So it holds heat or cold pretty well. So I use that for either, whatever I'm going to drink out of it, including coffee, fill it up. That's enough to get me hyper for a couple hours.
Man, your right arm just must be ginormous, right?
Yeah, I
You're
change
doing
arms
curls.
so I don't get like the teeny one on the left and the giant one on the right.
Yeah.
That would be a really problem.
Oh, man. Duke, tonight's going to be a great show. And I want to actually do the obvious. I want to paint a picture for everybody. Duke's channels and everything for World Bigfoot Radio are over at jimmychurchradio.com, and I encourage everybody to go and do that. And I just saw that Duke finally jumped into social media and got himself a Twitter account. As big and popular as World Bigfoot Radio is, and the world of Sasquatch, which is probably multiple times bigger than the UFO community, you stayed off of social media, and I found that very interesting. But you decided to take the Twitter plunge.
Oh, well, one of my trusted friends is actually handling that over there for me, so that I don't have to be on there, because I'd last all of 1 minute and they'd kick me off. So I'm just let somebody else take care of it.
You know what? Fair enough. That's probably very, very smart. Well, I've got Duke's new Twitter up in Twitter, so everybody can go follow Duke. And do head over to his channel and YouTube and everything else. The links are at jimmychurchradio.com. So let's kind of start here. Let's go back to 1972. You're 10 years old, which would mean that you and I are just about exactly the same age. I'm 58. Okay, so we're right there. So 1972, you're 10. What happened?
Well, I don't want to make the story too long. I had gone out with one of my friends scouting for sledding hills, because in Minnesota in the winter, there's a whole lot of snow and a whole lot of nothing to do. And if you happen to be lucky enough to be in a spot where there's some hills, you can make your own sledding run. So, for kids that live out in the middle of nowhere, cheap entertainment, get a plastic sled, go make sledding runs. Well, there was a nearby place where everybody would go to, but it was overrun because it was all treeless and it was a nice big hill. So all the snowmobiles and skiers and everyone used it. So we were trying to find something back in the woods behind my house, and we ended up, there was a fire lane cut there that went back about maybe two miles, and then it kind of dead ended because there was this slough there that they just couldn't get across. So it was pointless to continue on to try and make a fire lane cut on the other side when you couldn't get anything across it. So it just kind of dead ended there. Well, we went back there in the winter and went, we've never been across this thing, and now that it's frozen solid, we can lay on our sleds and slide across it. So that's what we did. We laid on our sleds, we belly slid across this thing. And, this was like a bog. So even in the winter when it was frozen solid, you'd still be going up to your waist trying to walk through it. And hopefully you wouldn't be going into any patches where there was open water, in which case, bloop, you're gone.
Right.
So you have to be super careful of these things, winter, summer, whenever. During the summer, they're pretty much impassable, which is part of the key to this whole thing. So we get across there, and we find that on the other side, there's a really steep hill. And actually, we go up that, and up above it, there's another steep hill that you couldn't see from down below. And when you got to the top of that, there's a third steep hill you couldn't see from the other two. So we're like in hog heaven. This is awesome. We've got the most bitchin' ass sledding run ever. People are, this is great. We don't have to share it with tons of people. So the first time out there, we spent a bunch of time making an actual luge run out of it, making supers and stuff, because the way the hill switched back and with trees all over the place at the speed we'd be going, if you went flying off, you were going to get killed. You would hit a tree and be mashed. And even as 10-year-olds, we had done this so much, we were already skilled, and watching Olympic luge tracks and stuff, like, okay, we need to build supers on this so we don't fly off and get killed. So we waited till the following weekend, and in between there had been a little bit of a break in the weather. It had gotten warmer and the snow had melted and then froze again. So we went, okay, it's nice and compacted now. Let's get out there this weekend and go check it out. So for the second time and last time ever, we went out there and we went across there and we got up onto the hill and everything was nice and solid. And I had one friend with me, Dave, and I said, well, this is going to be really dangerous. There's just two of us, and this is amazing. Like, I think back on it and go, man, I had some common sense when I was a 10-year-old. But even though we were dumb and we're in the middle of nowhere, we're still like, okay, safety first. If we both get mangled at the same time, there won't be anyone to get help. So one of us at a time will take turns going to the top and trying to make it down and survive, and the other one will sit about halfway down in case you need to help stop them or something, or pick up a mangled corpse that went off and go get help. And it's like, this is really super steep and dangerous. So we were super paranoid, even though we were crazy kids. So we did one slow run. Each one of us took a run down it. The second one, we did like a medium speed one. We both survived that. And then I was going to do the first high speed one, and Dave was stationed halfway down to watch. And I got up to the top and put my sled down, and I was just about to jump on it, and I went, there's something different than the last time I was up here a few minutes ago. Something looks different. And everything's dead still, and it's really clear. It's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and this is, in February, and it was a balmy 20 degrees below zero. We had just come out of a cold snap where the county next to us hit a low of 52 below ambient temperature. So brutal, brutal cold, right? So It's 20 below, and we're like, okay, awesome, let's go play outside.
Yeah, it warmed up, yes.
Yeah, it warmed up 32 degrees to only 20 below. So I'm looking back behind me, and most of this hillside slopes away from the top that I was on, and it's all just deciduous trees. So they're all leafless and barren. There's a little bit of snow on them. So you can see through them easily. There's nothing there. But over on my right-hand side, there's a huge black spruce about 40 feet away from me. And I'm looking at that, and I'm going, what is different? Oh, who cares? Go on, get onto the sled. And I start to turn around, and there was like something in the back of my mind going, there's something behind you. And I turned around and looked again. And this time I noticed that what I had perceived to be wrong with the scene and hadn't really caught in my brain was that the trunk of the tree had 3 trunks now. And 2 of them had this long grayish hair with little snow dingle balls on it. And they were the same thickness as the tree trunk. And I was like, well, my immediate thought as a kid is that some other kid had found our sledding run. And they were wearing some of those furry snow pants they used to make back in the 70s. And we're busted. And now they were going to come back there, and everybody was going to overrun our sled run. So I looked up in the tree to about where a kid or an adult's head would be, and nothing. And then I saw this rustling up above, so I turned my gaze a little bit higher. And about 9 feet up, there was this evil face looking at me. And he had his hands holding the branches apart, fingers holding down one branch and fingers holding up the other branch. And he was looking at me. And as soon as I saw him, he had this look of shock, like he was not expecting that somebody would see him. And he registered the shock for a minute, and then he grinned. And that scared the hell out of me, because his mouth went from ear to ear, and he had teeth that looked to me like a shark or something. The other thing I noticed is that the tips of his fingers had what looked like blackish talons to me, not fingernails. So I immediately decided, A, I don't know what this is, and B, it's a carnivore, and I need to get the hell out of here. So at that point, I decided that, well, I would just try and break the world luge speed record going down this super dangerous hill. Nobody had ever gone down fast before. Well, it's like I'd rather fly off one of the supers and get killed than have that thing catch me. That was my thinking.
Did you say like shark teeth, like great white, like
yeah,
pointed?
Exactly, like great white shark teeth. This thing, whatever it was not a standard Bigfoot.
And talons.
Yep, it looked like just what you see on an eagle or something. That's what its fingernails look like. If they were fingernails, they looked like talons.
Now, and you said 40 feet away, so you're close.
I'm getting a really close look at it, and this is midday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, bright sun,
right?
Clear 20 below day. With all that reflection off the snow, you see everything incredibly clear. And I've got a picture of him that was reconstructed for me by a forensic artist that, gives people nightmares when they look at it.
So I'm assuming you set the world luge record.
I did actually survive it.
Okay.
I remember as I got near Dave, he had this look on his face like something seriously wrong. And it didn't seem like because I was going so fast. And must have been the look on my face, because then his eyes got really big. And as I flew past him at utmost speed, I said, run like hell. And, he must have got the hint, whatever it was. anything.
Right.
Here's the other interesting thing. When he finally caught up to me, he didn't say anything about it. He didn't.
Okay.
He didn't say what happened for almost 2 years later. Dave was talking about this. We should go back and check that. No. Yeah, we went back there to that one time. Because I went from to be outside all the time, no matter what the weather conditions were. Never any questions asked.
Right. Of course. Did you go straight into Squatch research?
Well, no. I mean, keep in mind, the first 2 years after I saw this, I didn't even know that I had seen it. And then after the memory came back, it was so scary. I just decided, well, whatever that was, I'll stay out of the woods, and it won't get me.
Yeah,
and I was also living in a place where my dad had a gun shop in the house. We had a shooting range behind the house. I was collecting guns, so I was Rambo ready for anything that came up on the property. But if I was wandering around the woods by myself, I had, more severe qualms about running into something.
What do you do, and I think about 1972, 73, 74, that time so fondly because Bigfoot became a big deal, right? People were talking about it, and now it's on TV, and and you started to see this stuff too as well. How did you react to that?
Well, once the memory came back to me, then of course I got curious of what the heck had I seen out in the woods that had scared me so bad. And I started looking into it a little bit more, and I read all the little books that, in 74, they didn't have anything out there. There was no internet. There was hardly any books on cryptids. Occasionally you get a newspaper article, or there'd be some, B-League documentary for a TV show or something where you get to see something about the Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot or something. Mm-hmm. But the information was just so limited. And, of course, the first thing that stuck out like a sore thumb whacked by a sledgehammer was the PG film, the Patterson-Gimlin film with Patty, which still hasn't been debunked after all these gazillion years. And I saw that thing, and I was like, oh, wait a minute now. There's some kind of film of one of these big things running around the woods. Let me go check it out. And I looked at it, and I went, that doesn't help at all. That doesn't look like what I saw. So there's two different kinds of these things running around the woods. Now that makes me doubly paranoid and not wanting to go out there.
Yeah. The Patterson-Gimlin film isn't a scary film. It's an excellent film. No, there's no question about it. Yeah, it's an excellent film, but it doesn't scare you, right?
No, not really. It's just like, what's this big weird thing running? Walking away from this guy, who, by the way, is running at full speed with his camera, trying to catch up to it, and it's walking away, and it's getting away from him, which tells you how big this thing is.
When was, I'm looking at the clock, when was your next sighting, or what was your next sighting?
Well, the next one is what actually got me interested in doing research, because it was in 1977. It was in the early summer or the late spring, and my folks were having a get-together at the house, which, just never happened. I can remember 2 or 3 times the entire time I was a kid where they had people over, and this was probably the biggest gathering they had. It was the local Lions Club or something, and they had some get-together. And
also in Minnesota?
Also in Minnesota, yeah. Okay. This is same house, and 5 years later. Interestingly, I have to backtrack a little bit. Before the next sighting happened, we actually heard really strange vocalizations around the house about a week and a half, 2 weeks before that, right in the middle of the afternoon. And I could not identify what it was. My mom could hear it too. She was washing dishes, and I said, "Mom, what is that?" And she grew up over in Wisconsin, just near that area. And she said, I don't know. I've never heard anything like that before. Go get your little brother in the house. So I went and got him and brought him in the house. And then I went outside trying to identify where the sound came from. And it would go and stop. And then 2-3 minutes later, it would start again, but it'd be in a different location. And it was loud. You could hear it all over the yard. So whatever it was moving around in the heavy foliage and the bushes and stuff just off the yard into the woods where you couldn't see it moving around, and being stealthy enough you couldn't hear it. And every so often it would change position to do this. And it wasn't until years later when I heard the Sierra Sounds by Al Beery and Ron Moorhead where I heard the exact same sound of that Tasmanian devil disgruntled sound that they make, where they go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Man, you do that really
good. You're hearing that every 2 or 3 minutes or about 45 minutes and going, what the bleep is making this damn noise? I'm getting creeped out now. Well, here it was a week and a half later, and it was about an hour after dark, and the party was in full force, and we had a driveway about as long as a football field, and cars parked all the way down both sides of it and out on the road beyond it, so we had a big group there. And one of the adults said, hey, we're running low on beer. Send somebody out to my car and get the beer. It's in the back seat. Okay, which one is it? So the third car down on the right-hand side. It's in the back seat on the passenger side. Okay, so all I have to do is walk down the driveway. Okay, so I go walking out the door, and I take the 2 steps down to the lower sidewalk, and I go down there, and I'm looking down below now. There's a porch lamp up at the top where you go in the door, but as you get progressively lower, the light is dimmer and dimmer. And when you get even with the top of the vehicles, it's pitch black. You can't see anything out there. So I'm getting lower and lower, and my eyes are starting to adjust to the dark, and I'm turning, just stepping onto the gravel driveway and looking to my right, and I see these 2 big eyes. And they look like green sunglasses, the old 70s sunglasses with the droopy bottom and stuff. That's what it looked like. And so I was going to give somebody hell, who's this drunk walking up here in the dark with sunglasses on where you can't see anything? Exactly. Okay, here's the difference between those and yours. First of all, they had a green lens, and secondly, there was about 6 inches in between them.
Oh, holy crap.
And that's what made me go, wait a minute, that's not somebody with sunglasses on. And at that point, I was getting low enough down into where the darkness was that I was starting to be able to see a shape. There was something squatting in the middle of the driveway, waiting for me to walk up to it. And that was its eyes. And we had really huge bears there. So initially I thought it was this one bear that had tried to actually get one of us before, that we had a nickname for that doesn't bear repeating on the air. And at this point, he was about 1.5 cars away from me, and I'm still walking toward him. Well, if this is a bear and I turn and run, I'm dead.
Right.
Because they can catch you easily. So what my thought process is, I need to slow down and buy some time here. So I start fiddling with the door latches on the cars that I'm going past as if I'm trying to get in them, whether they actually open or not. I'm just fiddling with them, trying to think what I should do. My eyes are adjusting. I'm getting a better chance to look at them. Now I notice the object in front of me is not human-shaped. It's more like a big blob. And it doesn't have the outline of a bear. And I'm like, okay, what's the next available spot to duck through here? I have to walk down to the end of this car.
Right.
And I have to take a right and squeeze in between the front bumper of the one and the back of the other one and get through there really fast. So I've got a car between me and this thing at least. It has to clamber over a car to get to me. That'll slow it down. I've got time to start my sprint 3 cars up to get to the door. As I come down to that position where I'm just about to turn and get behind the bumper, I realize that what I'm looking at has shoulders, and it's actually squatting on its haunches and has its knuckles on the ground, and it's as tall as I am and about 5 feet wide. And then I go, oh my God, that's not a bear. Now I'm really scared because you can predict somewhat what a bear might do. With this thing, I have no idea. And as I'm trying to squeeze my way through there, momentarily, I've got my back to this thing, and it's 8 feet away from me. He could have literally just stood up and leaned over and grabbed me.
Right.
And I finally squeezed my way in between the 2 cars and immediately ducked down. And like I was almost on all fours, knuckles dragging on the ground. I was so low, ran as fast as I could, so I'm under the cover behind those cars, and then popped up into the light, got into the house, ran inside to the gun cabinet with that look on my face. And my dad said, "What happened?" And I yelled the name of the bear, whose name does not bear repeating. And I grabbed the 12-gauge shotgun, and he grabbed his big hunting rifle, and we both ran out the door. But of course, by the time we got out there, said object, whatever it was, had disappeared again. So now at that point, I decided that it doesn't matter if I stay at the house, they could still be here. I need to learn more about these things because apparently I can't avoid it just by staying at home. So I might as well just go wherever I want, but I need to know more about these things.
Now, you're 15 years old, and when you're 15, you have no fear. Were you scared?
Oh, hell yeah.
You were?
Oh, yeah. Well, I had, we had a county dump about 1.5 miles away from where I lived. And we had bears coming through there all the time, and they are dangerous. And don't let anybody tell you that they can't be. Black bears will hunt humans more commonly than grizzly bears will. Grizzly bears generally mug you because you surprised them. Black bears will actually profile to hunt and kill humans, and it's happened plenty of times. And we did have one around our area that was eventually hit by a state patrol car by accident, which smashed the state patrol car. He was on high-speed call when he hit it. And this thing had 720 pounds. He left one of his front footprint tracks in our driveway at one point. That was 7.5 inches across.
Right.
So we were always watchful for bears, and we knew we had that one in the area that was actually trying to get people until he got creamed by that state patrol car. He was around. And, that doesn't mean there aren't other ones. So, yeah, you were really careful when you were out there in the dark. There was times when we'd go in the fall to go get on the school bus. It was still early enough. They weren't hibernating yet. And we'd have to throw a rock at them or something. Like, get out of here. We got to go wait for the bus 100 yards from the house, in between you and the house.
Yeah, right. And I can only imagine that this, especially at that age, 15, does this become a hobby? We all have hobbies at the age of 15. You dive into it. For me, it was guitar, 24 hours a day for years. Is that what happened with you and Bigfoot?
No, I was actually into guitar, too. I was in all kinds of high school bands and stuff, played bass and everything, because, hey, as long as you're indoors playing, you can't get mugged by Bigfoot. So that was, and in northern Minnesota, you got a lot of winter, and, unless you want to be out there freezing a lot, there's not a whole lot of fun running around the mountains time, or the hills. But I was from that point on, I felt like it was necessary to maintain my life and not be killed by something weird, to try and get more information on these things and try and figure out what it was. And the local, I didn't find out till years later that the natives up there know quite a lot about it, but they don't tell anybody anything. So that was no help. I didn't know where to go for any information on local stuff. And in the 70s, other than the report of the Minnesota Iceman, there was no thought whatsoever that there could be such a thing in Minnesota. All the locals there are just like, no, they don't believe it. The natives knew it, but none of the local people other than that.
What do you find, I've only got about 30 seconds and we got to take a break, is just speaking about North America and the United States, is it national, or is there more sightings up in the Pacific Northwest, or is it pretty even across the country?
It varies a lot by terrain. The plain states tend to get less because there's less cover and less food for them.
Right.
Than when there used to be buffalo grass 8 feet tall there. I bet there was a lot more of them there then. But it is regional. There's some, you'd actually be surprised like that. I could give you a better answer on that one after we come back. But in general, they're all over the continent. The only place that there hasn't been a reliable report in the 50 states of the U.S. is Hawaii, where they do have Menehune, the little people reports, but they don't really have anything good as far as a Bigfoot report at this point.
Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, the one and only Duke Sullivan of World Bigfoot Radio. Tonight, it's all big feet, all squatching, all night long. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this short break.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today, and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30 days free on ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Because you never got that pony you always wanted. Damn it. Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network. KGRADB.com.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Duke Sullivan is joining us from World Bigfoot Radio. Tomorrow night, James Fox is here. Thursday night, it's Fader Night, open lines, but not just any Fader Night. Ron Keel is here. Ron Keel, that's right. The heavy metal cowboy is going to be manning the phones with me, taking your phone calls all night long. Tonight it's Duke Sullivan. And, hey, Duke, are you a heavy metal guy?
Oh, yes. I just recorded a metal band here on Sunday that I posted on my channel on Monday.
So then you must be a fan of Keel and Steeler and Yngwie Malmsteen.
Oh, yeah. I'm old fart, old school thrash metal from the era of Voivod, Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, those guys. I got to interview all of them.
I toured with Voivod.
Right on. Love those guys.
I toured with Voivod, man. I was out. I did. I don't want to get too sideways off of the show tonight, but I did about, I think, maybe 6 months on the road with Voivod, Piggy, and the boy, man. And that's a good band. They are, I would say, they're like the Rush of techno thrash metal.
Yeah, they call themselves nuclear metal.
Yeah,
they actually had what was it? The oh geez, I can't even remember the name of the festival itself. But they had like them, The Possessed, Nasty Savage, and a couple other really just brutal bands, and they were headlining it. I think it was World War III Music Fest. And yeah, I was actually working for different magazines doing interviews with bands at the time, so I got to interview them multiple times. And quick anecdote about Voivod: the third time I saw them, they were playing a place called Norma Jean's, which is named after Marilyn Monroe. Mm-hmm. And there was a whole bunch of people there that were really big Voivod fans. And, of course, they were in their U-Haul touring bus that they were hauling everything around in. And I had showed up with a friend that had credits at a limo company, so he rented a limo to bring us there. And it had tinted windows on it. So after I got done interviewing Snake and Piggy, they were like, hey, we need to load our equipment out and not get mobbed. Do you know anybody who's got that limo? And I said, oh, that's me and my friends. And I'm like, do you need help? Do you need cover? And he's like, yeah. Can you pull it around front and just sit there and make everybody think we're in there for a few minutes until we get loaded out? Like, yeah, no problem, man. So, yeah, we pretended we were Voivod. They couldn't see in the tinted windows. We pulled up front for about 20 minutes until they got everything loaded. We saw the U-Haul pulling out, and we went, okay, and gave them the high side, stuck our arm out the window. Thumbs up.
I'll say the one thing, and Snake, one of the funniest dudes I have ever, Piggy too, that I've ever been around, and the stuff that we did on that bus, it was just so much fun. Anyway, Snake and Piggy, his guitar, they were so polished. I can't put it into words. It's intricate music, very intricate, but absolutely a polished sound. They were just an amazing band. Like I said, I probably saw them 100 times.
And the proof is in the pudding live, and those guys were super tight live.
That's what I'm saying.
Flawlessly tight. And the other thing is they were total hands-on. Their drummer, Way, was doing all their cover artwork. Piggy was actually making their guitars and basses for them.
Yep. All of that stuff, his pedal board and how he wired it, he did everything himself, and could smoke weed like nobody I've ever experienced. Okay, so moving on. Let me tell you a little story about Duke Sullivan. I'm having a dinner party over at my house, and I've got about maybe 10 or 15 people there, and we're cooking and big party all night, and we're out on the back patio, and then somebody says, man, have you guys been listening to Duke Sullivan lately? And I don't know what's going on, right? This is my introduction to Uncle Duke. And then another person at the table, and I like to think I know everything, another person says, yeah, man, the Glag, part 3, whatever, right? And then somebody else says, yeah, and that part about Kevin, and then somebody else says, yeah, I caught that too. And it kind of went around the table, and I'm like, what is everybody talking about here? And emotionally, how they were exchanging their thoughts about different parts of this huge, ginormous story, and I had no idea. And I said, okay, what's going on here? And they slowly exposed me to this epic, I think is the right word. I mean, it's a big story. It's
well, I call it a saga because it's, like Icelandic legend size length. I think it's like total 9 hours, and there's still one part of it that hasn't come out yet, where someone else has encountered the very same Sasquatch, and they are actually recovering from surgery right now. I'm planning on having them on soon.
Now, all of the elements that I was exposed to, and I'll let you, explain and tell the story, but it's about relationships, it's about language, it's about seasons, it's a heroic journey, it's friendship. It's got all the elements, right? It's like the Iliad, right? It's like the Odyssey. It's like Homer. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing about this story. And so let's kind of start at the beginning. And who was, before we get to Glag, who was Kevin Laing?
Kevin grew up over in Idaho. He was the son of a pastor, and hellraiser when he was in his teens and early 20s, and then settled down and became a really great guy. He's been vetted by so many people that I know at this point it's ridiculous. There's a lot of the researchers after he got involved with the community got to actually take him out to their spots researching with him and stuff, and they all vouch for him 100%. Whenever he's around, the activity picked up a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, who knows who he is. And they're like, oh, it's Kevin. First of all, he actually contacted me. He had been on Sasquatch Chronicles, and he was telling a story from when he was about the same age as when I had my second sighting. I think he was about 15 years old, and he was out elk hunting with his dad and his brother. And his dad was driving him up this canyon and was dropping him off, I think he said, about every quarter mile. And then they would walk up the hillside, find a convenient, good spot, and sit there and wait for the elk to start moving around. And while Kevin was up there, sure enough, here comes, he can hear the sound of something running up the ridgeline toward him. And he's sitting on as I recall, it was a big rock with a tree behind his back. And he's watching the ridgeline, but he can't see the drop-off below it. So he's just waiting for something to either come past him and go down it or come up it in his direction. There's a game trail there. Well, here's all this racket. There's something really big coming up toward him. And here comes this elk, full-size, huge, bull elk, winded, lathered, spit coming out. And he sees Kevin and runs right toward and past him, which startled Kevin because, hey, I got a gun. I'm a hunter. You're running toward me. What's going on? And then he realizes he's still hearing this loud noise coming up behind this elk, and it sounds like way bigger than the elk. And it finally comes up over the rise, and he said it didn't get past its waist. It spotted me right away. So I'd have to guesstimate it at about 10 feet tall, but I'm not sure because I could only see him from the waist up. That's all that came up over the rise before he noticed me. He had a boulder in his hand about the size of a pumpkin. And when he saw Kevin, he gave this mighty roar, apparently of disgruntlement. Stupid human, you ruined my elk hunt. And he flicked the boulder away with his fingers, and Kevin said it flew like 60, 70 feet, hit another big rock, and shattered. And it was just effortless. He flipped it away with his fingers. And this thing was the size of a pumpkin. And then it glared at him, and it turned around and went back down the hillside. Well, he was pretty much ready to be done elk hunting at that point. So his dad came down shortly after that to pick him up anyway. And what was that noise down here? And he goes, I don't know, maybe it was an elk or a moose or something. I heard it too. And his brother's like, well, yeah, it came from your direction. You must have heard it better than us. And Kevin's like, I'm not going to tell anybody what I just saw. Nobody will believe me. So he just played it off. Well, I don't know what it was. That was it for him. So after he had told this story on Sasquatch Chronicles, he contacted me and he said, Duke, I want to tell you about something really big that happened to me. And he told me this story about Glag. And I said, why didn't you tell this on Sasquatch Chronicles? And he said, because Wes wouldn't have believed me. And even if he did, I don't know if he'd do this story because it's so long. And yeah, he was right. It was long. There was a whole bunch of long parts to put all of it together. He actually spent 5 years with this other Sasquatch as his like childhood friend. And so there was a lot to that, you know. And as far as vetting somebody with a crazy story like this goes, after he put the whole thing out on my channel, he started his own YouTube channel, and he did a chat every weekend for 52 weekends, an entire year, where anybody could come on, ask him any question about the saga, and he would answer their questions. And nothing he said ever contradicted anything he said on my show. There is no physical way anybody could remember that much detail unless it actually happened. And the other thing is, if you've heard him telling this story, you know, even really tough and hardened he-men cry during parts of it. It's, you know, either this guy is the greatest story writer that Hollywood never found out about and one of the greatest actors they never heard about, or he's legit. And I've been out in the field with him, and so has a bunch of other my friends. He's legit. This really happened.
He sounded like a very honest, happy, fresh, smart man. I mean, to me, that's the way he always came across.
Well, and he comes across to the people that actually got to meet him. It was even, you know, like, well, he's my best friend. This is like one of the coolest guys I've ever met in my life. He never wants to hurt anybody's feelings. You know, it was really hard to get him to actually say a swear word. He had to be super mad to say a swear word. He couldn't get him to say anything bad about anybody. He just didn't want to talk about it.
Now, we're talking about him in the past tense. What happened to Kevin?
I don't really want to get in on that because it's going to cause problems for both of us, but we have strong suspicions it wasn't natural, and he died May 4th, 2020.
Right. And that's why, for me, going back and listening to him speak, it's pretty strange. It's pretty strange. But again, very happy, very smart, very grounded person, and there's a lot of Kevin Laing to go out there and listen to. So he brings the Glag saga to you as an overview, because I really want to start from the beginning. We don't have enough time to even get a taste of this into the show tonight, but there are some pretty dramatic moments in this that are just unbelievably cool and crazy at the same time. So if you were going to describe what this saga is, how would you frame it?
For those of us that are older farts, you might remember the movie Born Free. Lion cub lost its family, humans take care of it, try and train it to go back in the wild by itself, release it again. It's like that, except for the lion cub is actually intelligent, can talk to you, and has a personality. And it's a Sasquatch.
And in the beginning, how did Kevin first meet Glag?
Well, he met Glag when he was...
I keep saying Glag. It's Glag.
Okay. Yeah, Kevin had to correct me a few times, too. He said, no, Glag yelled at me when I mispronounced it, too, so everybody gets it.
It's so, Glagg.
G. Yeah, that's how Kevin spelled it, but he said, yeah, it's Glag. He mispronounced it, and Glag said, no, Glag. Oh, okay, you're saying it so fast. That's why I'm not understanding it. And that's another thing. When they get excited, they talk fast. It's difficult to understand them. So anyway, what had happened with him is, again, this was, I think, the year after he had his elk encounter, and he was out hunting by himself for deer. And he had made a deer stand that was way up there, and it was big. You could actually, like, camp in it if you wanted to. Not legal. But he put some spikes in the tree so he could get up there. It was about 20 feet up or more. And he bagged a deer, and it was too late at night to drag it down out of the mountains. So he made up his mind to just stay there overnight. And this was not warm. It was basically winter. There was snow on the ground and everything at this point. And so he strung the deer up in a tree with a piece of rope holding it up and went off to sleep. Well, in the middle of the night, he starts hearing this noise, and he wakes up, and he can see this figure down below his deer in the moonlight, or whatever light there was. Starlight, I can't remember exactly. But there was enough light that he could see it with all of the snow on the ground. Some human-shaped figure was trying to grab the deer. It kept jumping up trying to grab the deer. And it didn't register it to him that was really peculiar, because a human would know there's a rope holding it up. Just go let the rope down and you can get at the deer. It's human shape, but it's jumping up trying to get the deer. So, he's still half asleep. He doesn't even put his boots on. He's got his, long johns and his thick insulated socks on. He climbs quietly down the tree and pads through the snow toward it and goes, "What are you trying to do with my deer?" Oh, and then he realized that's not a human. And this looks like that other thing that I saw last year, only a lot smaller. And I'm getting back up in my deer stand. And he turned around and hightailed it back to his deer stand. Well, there was this whole cat and mouse thing that went on over the next day, where it stayed nearby, and he realized that it was probably needing food. And why weren't there adults around taking care of it? And there's a whole backstory to this that's, again, another long part of the story, where there had been reports around town that some junk hunters had actually killed a Sasquatch family. And he reasoned this could be an orphan that was left. And that's why it was here trying to get his deer kill in the middle of the night. There's no adults around that could easily snap the string and drop it, because he's seen one of those already. He knew they could do that easily. So he eventually took it down and gave the creatures he perceived it a hindquarter to eat. And then he stayed there dressing out the deer for the rest of the day and that night. And he was cooking part of it around the fire, and actually enticed Glag to come into the fire and get some food. And then at that point, Glag decided that, hey, you're okay. You're feeding me. You didn't try to shoot me or anything. Be my friend, poor little orphan. He was about Kevin's size. He was around 6 foot, maybe a little bit taller. And from what we know about their growth from all the people that have been giving us reports, and, hey, I got this one in this area. I've seen it from the time it was little. Every year I see it. Here's how much it grows. Here's how big its track is. We can hazard a pretty good guess that even though he was the size of somebody who was in their later teens and was already a pretty big kid, that he was probably basically barely a toddler. He was in the 4 or 5 year old range at most.
And the curiosity, of a 5-year-old, let's just go right there. And Kevin's young too, right? So as
Kevin found out later, Glag was just not big and strong enough to catch big game. He was keeping himself alive eating rabbits and grouse and stuff like that, which is really not enough food for a creature like that grows that fast. They need tons of food, and he's not big enough to take down big game. So Kevin helped him with that for a while until he got big enough to do it himself.
And how much time are we talking about here? I mean, they just became like fast friends, right?
Yeah, well, it took, several trips out there for Kevin to establish basic communication with him, because he didn't speak any English, and Kevin didn't understand anything from his language. That took a long time. He was drawing things in the dirt to try and explain things to him, or showing him something, picture of something, and can tell him the name, just interacting with him like kids would do. Bring a big rubber kickball out there and kick the kickball around. Which they didn't generally last very long, because he'd crush it by accident or step on it and it would blow up.
And this kind of thing actually went on, the drawing, the playing, toys, things like that, right? And
yeah, because you got to figure, you got a 15-year-old human who's interacting with what is essentially like the equivalent of a 4 or 5 year old who's the same size as them. So that the little kid wants interaction and wants to play even more than the 15-year-old does. And the 15-year-old has nothing but older brothers that are really mean to him, and he can't wait to leave home and go out in the woods and play with his other friend. So, yeah, they spent like 5 years, as much time as he could spend out there in the woods with him. He was out there.
Now, at this point, where was Glag living?
That was something that it took Kevin a while to find out, that he had found some kind of a cave near there that he was actually living in. There, even if you're like friends with him, they're going to show you where they live.
Right.
That was something he found out after they moved him again. It was to the very, I'm not sure if he ever did actually see where he was staying. Glag had an intermediate cave where that was their meeting place, where he would leave some of the stuff he had got from Kevin. And there was like a little matting of pine boughs and stuff in there that you could sleep on if you wanted to. But his actual place where he was living was even further out in the middle of nowhere. And I'm not sure Kevin even ever went there.
And they were able to communicate.
Yeah, like I said, that takes a lot of effort. And that's a big part of the early parts of the story, where Kevin's explaining how he did all this and managed to get it across to him. And, it's the willingness of this smart little guy that doesn't have anybody else to interact with. And they're just as social as humans are. If you're a 5-year-old and you're living out in the mountains by yourself, you're super happy when your weird-looking hairless friend shows up and wants to spend time with you, teaching you things and showing you cool things.
And
so divided attention.
And what kind of we're going to head to a break here in about 2 minutes. What kind of gifts was Kevin bringing Glag?
He brought him things that he thought that he could use. He was trying to figure out how to teach him how to make fire, which actually he figured that out really fast, but his hands were already too big to use a lighter. So he couldn't work a lighter or anything. So that was one of the things when Kevin showed up. He always wanted Kevin to build a fire. Sometimes Kevin would have food with the cook, but oftentimes, especially after the first year, Glag was catching everything he wanted to eat himself, and he just it tasted better when it was cooked. So fire, 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 fire! As soon as Kevin showed up, make a fire. So so I can cook some of this what I got here. Kevin thought at one point that he might need a knife for skinning, so in shop class he made him a big old knife that would fit his hand. He could use for skinning animals and stuff. And he was all proud, and he brought it out there, and he was going to give it to Glag. And Glag had a deer that he had brought with him. And Kevin started a fire, and Glag ripped one of the front quarters off the deer like we pulled the leg off a cooked chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin just went, he doesn't need this knife for anything.
What an incredible story, and so much more to go with this. Duke, I want you to stay right there. We need to take a break. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Duke Sullivan of World Bigfoot Radio. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Fadernauts. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Duke Sullivan. Duke Sullivan is here of World Bigfoot Radio. And more with Duke in just a second. Right now, I want to talk to you about Virtual Shield VPN. Everybody needs their own VPN these days. You've got to run private. You've got to run secret. You don't want anybody to know about your search history or anything else. And Virtual Shield makes it very easy. They have encrypted servers all around the world. They have a strict no-log policy on all of your search history, and it's super easy to do. All you got to do is click on the link in the video description box below. It's right there. You can also head over to jimmychurchradio.com. We have banners and links there, and you can also type in to your browser virtualshield.com/fade to black. Do any of that, and you will get Virtual Shield VPN for 50% off today. I've got a lot of computers. I have a complex world that I run. All of it is with Virtual Shield. Get it today. Our guest tonight, Duke Sullivan, and we are, and this is the thing, Duke, when we talk about, Bigfoot and Sasquatch and Yeti and these different names for species that are around the world, I think that we don't think about a complex, environment, that they have they have their own way of living and communication and all of that. We think that they are just, like a bear or something else, but they have a complex social system.
Very much so. I'm actually the Montana representative of International Hominology of Forest People. And hominology is the science of near human beings. So this isn't an accepted science in most countries. The Department of Hominology exists as a division of the Department of Evolutionary Science in Moscow, Russia, of all places, where they actually have let people do research on this stuff. But in some of the countries, it's not, accepted at all. They won't even let people look into it. Preposterous. There's no near humans still running around the earth. Yeah, well, why we keep getting them on video and finding tracks all the time and getting audio recordings of them? And they're apparently everywhere. And are they all the same thing? Well, maybe not. Are they all probably relic hominids? Well, that's almost a certainty. Look at some of the skeletons that we've got that are well known to science. We've got Homo neanderthal, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo denisovan, and then you've got the little people, Homo luzon and Homo floresiensis. So there's no such thing as little people. Hey, we got their skeletons. Yes, there are. There's two different kinds that they've classified now. So for sure there were little people. Are there still little people? Again, people keep spotting them and getting pictures that look like there are. So it's not so easy to discount this stuff, especially in lieu of the fossil record. What is Bigfoot? Well, nobody has been able to identify what exactly their DNA is, although we have it. It's actually listed in Zoobank. They've done a DNA study of this. The Ketchum study was done with over 100 samples, and they all came out the same thing. The mitochondrial DNA was the same as humans, essentially, branching probably about 12,000 years ago. And then the nuclear DNA, which is the father's side, is unclassified because they don't have a match for it. And that's the problem with DNA science, unless you've got a dead example and you pull some DNA and go, what's this? Hey, this matches to the other samples we've got. Right. You don't have a baseline to know what you're matching it against. However, there's a lot of these DNA samples that do match with each other. So this whatever it is, there's more than one study that's gotten DNA from them. And they're all over the dang place. I was talking to one of the other people from Hominology that was saying that the team over there, and I think it's the Caucasus Mountains, where they had found a very recent skeleton that appeared to be a hybrid of Denisovan and Neanderthal, which is like the first of a kind. We've got these older phenotypes, but hey, wait, they're interbreeding with each other. Well, Neanderthal was interbreeding with humans. A lot of Northern Europeans still have that trace bloodline from Neanderthal in them, too. So it's not that much of a surprise that the other hominins would actually interbreed with each other. But what surprised them is that this thing's recent enough they could pull DNA out of it. So it hadn't been laying there that long.
How many, hold on. Sorry about that. I had to hit the cough button. How many chromosome pairs are in Bigfoot DNA? Primates have 48, but Homo sapien has 46. What do you find in Bigfoot DNA?
The Ketchum study, as far as I can recall, says it's the same as humans, basically.
So it's 46 chromosome pairs in Bigfoot. Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
Keep in mind all of the relic hominids that were capable, all the Homo, that we just mentioned, the Homo Neanderthal, Homo Denisova, all those, they're all from the same family, and they're capable of interbreeding with each other. So they're going to be really, really close genetically.
Well, they would have, if there's interbreeding with Homo sapien, then they have to have 46 chromosome pairs. There wouldn't be.
That's my point exactly, because you can't inbreed with a gorilla or a chimpanzee or something. They're too far from our family line.
Right, that's 48.
And so the fact that Bigfoot is showing this, human line DNA, they're very, very close to us, and they have been inbreeding with humans in the past, at least. Also possibly more closer to the present too.
Now, and I bring up all of this because of a couple of things that you said about Glag before the break. Very, very crucial points, and I'm not going to let them get by us. You said that Kevin was trying to teach Glag how to use a lighter, like a Bic lighter, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And so the intelligence is there, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then Glag was speaking. Did you say Glag was saying fire, or were you just saying that?
Oh, yeah. No. He's learned to speak English quite quickly because, hey, again, like a 4 or 5-year-old, how fast do they pick it up? You got somebody jabbering the same word at you over and over again and then trying to explain to you what it means, you'll pick it up too. As a matter of fact, he picked up English way faster than Kevin picked up the words that he was trying to teach him in his language.
Because it was going both ways. And
they were trying to communicate with each other. It's like if you're fighter pilots that were shot down on a desert island or something from different cultures and languages, you'd have to figure out a way to communicate even though you didn't know each other's languages. The only baseline you've got is you can both speak
and draw pictures in the dirt.
And draw pictures in the dirt.
Right.
And one of the first things Kevin did to explain to him was what's a day and a night. Point up to the sky. See the sun up there? That's a day. And then he'd, draw a little picture of a moon, like the sliver moon on the dirt, and go, that's a night. Everything's black. And he, finally got him to understand that. And then he started drawing a box in the dirt with a little symbol on it going, that's one day. And then he'd draw like 5 of them and go, here's the one right after that. That's when I'll be back.
Well, see, that's one of the differences between, primates, gorillas, chimps, chimpanzees, monkeys, that they don't have the ability to vocalize with their vocal cords.
No, they don't.
They don't. But
Sasquatch are better than us. I found out from an insider that they have... they actually have 3 vocal cords. They can
harmonize.
Sing, all by themselves. You know what they can do. The throat singers can do and stuff over in Mongolia and Nepal and everything. Imagine what they can do with 3 vocal cords.
Okay, so Glag can speak.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And was Kevin able to learn Glag's language?
Yeah, he learned some words in it. Unfortunately, Kevin later on in life had a stroke, and he had written them down, so he forgot most of them. There were still a few words that he remembered, and some other people that were in communication with Sasquatch actually, said, "Hey, Kevin, you ever heard this?" And he went, "Yeah, it means this."
Now,
but he knew what they meant if somebody else would bring them up, but he couldn't remember it.
Now, as crazy as this story is sounding for those that have never heard the Glag story and Kevin Laing, it gets far, far more interesting. But this first year, how often was Kevin able to visit with Glag? Was it daily, weekly, monthly?
He actually took some fake hunting trips from school so he could go up there and spend more time with them during the fall, because that's when he first met with them, and that's when a lot of interaction was happening. And then after that, it was like he could only get up there on weekends. But he was only about a 20-minute drive away from him. So he'd hop on his little dirt bike and then later in the winter on his snowmobile, and he could cruise up there and visit him. Now, this became kind of alarming to him because by spring he started to realize he's too close to town. I'm going up here too often. People are starting to follow me. We need to move him somewhere else, further away. And that was the next big challenge is how do you find a place for this solo Sasquatch to live by himself, and how do you get him there without anybody seeing it?
Oh, there's Sasquatch Realty.
Sure.
Yeah, just call up an agent. And
Sasquatch Realtors.
Yeah, open house.
Any abandoned shack is Sasquatch Realty as far as they're concerned.
Totally. Now, the other thing that I wanted to circle back to was cooking and fire. So, are you suggesting, not with Glag, just out in Bigfoot land, are they cooking with fire?
Generally, no.
Okay.
They're just as smart and savvy as we are. They just don't use technology for the most part. And they do actually store up food. They will dry food, how we can air dry stuff and everything like that, or sun dry it. They can do the same thing with it. And then they'll just take it into a cave, which is air conditioned, 54 degrees year round. And we've had examples where people have found this, where there's all these little weird indentations in the wall. What's this? And they dig at them, and there's a little dirt plug, and the dirt plug comes out. And what's inside of it is like a sun-dried mouse wrapped in a leaf. Or a bird wrapped in a leaf. No, people have actually found this stuff. So they stash food. And I suspect if you go deeper into the caves where it's not a good idea to go, and it's even colder, they could have other stuff stashed in there too. During the winter conditions, provided that you're below 32 degrees in the local area, they can kill big game and just throw it in a pile and let the snow bury it, and it's not going to rot. They don't have to move around much and hunt much during the winter.
Now, I'm going to stay on the Glag saga, but I wanted to ask you this. You're the expert. I was with some friends up in Washington State, and these young boys that were hanging out with us, the sons of my friends that were there, are out goofing around. And we've got maybe 200 people camping. We're having a conference, my conference up there, and I'm like by myself. And one of the boys comes up. His name's Phoenix, and he goes, "Hey Jimmy, you want to see a Bigfoot print?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm tired. How far away is it? Bigfoot print, right?" I'm just like, not interested. I go, all right, where is it? And he goes, it's right over there. And he points, and I see the other three, right, and standing there, and they're looking at me like, are you coming, right? I'm like, oh, man, all right, the cranky old dude, I'll walk over there. It's about 100 yards out in the middle of this field. Now, here's the deal. I don't want to get into the details. You're the guest on the show, but I have a question about this. So, and I'll send you the pictures and things, okay? And I've got some video.
Sure.
I'll send you all of this. Anyway, so I walk up and I look down, and now this is the reason why I want to ask you. Around us, my RV, right? It's right there. 40-foot RV, 40-foot RV, tent. We're camping in this field. Pretty close to where these prints are. I haven't seen them yet. So I walk up and I look down. Duke, this big, 18 inches, or bigger. And it's like this deep in the hard packed dirt, like 2.5, maybe 3 inches deep. And I look at it, and its toes, it's a friggin' footprint, man. This big. And I can't believe what I'm looking at. Now, we ended up finding 4. Left, right, or right, left, going in an arch. But nothing before and nothing after. It's like this thing materialized and dropped down into this field. I'm 200 pounds. I'm 6 foot tall. I'm a fat dude, right? I'm not making a dent in this dirt. These prints are this, and it's fresh. You can tell. They were done the night before. And that's what freaked me out. In the middle of this campsite with 200 people, and it looked like it arched, and they ended maybe 20 feet from this RV going in that direction, but there were no more prints after that. Does that even make sense to you? Or do you think
this kind of stuff comes up more often than you'd think it does, Jimmy. And a lot of people will try and assign, prosaic explanations to it. Well, I was following this track line. It went out in the middle of this field and it just stopped. Well, maybe it just backtracked itself and it was stepping in its own footprints, and then it jumped up in a tree when it got back. And, because humans can do that kind of thing. If you're really good and you know how to do it, you can do it. So it's possible. But how about the ones where you go out in the field and there's no tracks going up to it, and then there's a track line, and then it just stops again?
That's what
and
happened.
There's been reports
Right.
of this stuff in the snow, Jimmy.
It doesn't make any
sense. There's no way in hell.
And there was another part to this, Duke, and so let me throw this out there to you. I mean, I was freaking myself out watching this, looking at the prints were like, I think they were between 6 and 8 feet apart. And so I'm trying to do my step, and we did all of this on video, and I'm making it halfway. I'm not even getting close to where the second print is, right, left, and it way big. Whatever this was, it was big. And I don't want to say hoax. It was too dramatic almost to be real, right? I mean, it was just too perfect. They were in the dirt. They were sunken in. The grass was all bent down. You could see the toes and everything. And it was like 6 feet apart. Big gate.
Well, we commonly find tracks in our research areas, and it's you never find track lines. You just never do. The most we found recently, 3 21-inch tracks last year, right near each other in a muddy area. But usually it's only 1 or 2 tracks, and we'll be in areas where we're investigating huge structures and trying to get video of those, and you start watching the ground, and occasionally you'll see a random track there. Some of them are pretty obvious, but you hardly ever see anything more than that. And they are really good at hiding their presence. One of the things we notice in areas where they have a lot of traffic there, they knock down all kinds of timber, or they even drag in dead trees and throw them on the ground because they'll walk on them. They don't leave a track when they're walking on the timber. And this was noticed and documented by Jack Barnes and Jeff Anderson in Minnesota Trackway when they filmed that up in northern Minnesota in the winter quite a few years ago. They were just blazing new trail with snowmobiles. They had chainsaws. They were cutting through deadfall, making a trail, and they found this trackway going through like 2 foot deep snow in the middle of nowhere. There's 16-inch tracks. There's no humans out here. So they started following it. They spent the whole day following this thing and filming it. And there was a couple of places where he was doing the same thing you were talking about. He was trying to step from one track to another. And the one, he couldn't even reach halfway to where the track came down. And the track came down on top of a log that was about 2.5 feet off the ground. And he noticed as he was, well, let me finish now.
Okay.
He noticed as he was filming this, which, by the way, is the longest documented track line ever filmed. And they only gave up because it was getting dark and they didn't want to find whatever it was they were following. But over and over again, it would walk on fallen logs in preference to being on the ground. And even though there was sometimes snow on top of the logs, so it would still leave tracks. It was so ingrained in it to do that it was walking on those logs all the time. And they backtrailed it to where the tracks came from, and there was just this hillside, and they couldn't find any tracks. And then they came back a couple days later and looked at it again and realized there were logs lying from the top of the hill all the way down to the bottom where the track started. It walked from the top of the hill all the way down to the bottom of the hill, staying on the logs the whole way. And that's why it hadn't left the track.
Like we would do when we were kids.
Yeah,
right.
And they're doing this on purpose. They're just as smart as we are. They're trying to avoid detection.
Right.
And they've had a whole lifetime to practice, so man, are they good at it. And that's not including their paranormal abilities, which, yes, they apparently have.
Now, so when I tell you we only found 4 footprints, nothing before, nothing after, we're scratching our heads, how could this be? And you're saying that's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's the way a lot of researchers will tell you very similar stories, the same kind of thing. Can't account for it. Just weekend before last, we had found this little stream that was a tributary of this one area in this pass in the mountains we like to research, and we just started walking up it. Now, there's no trail going up this thing. There isn't even a game trail, and there's a low-lying vegetation. Anything that went through there recently would have actually ruffled it around. You would have seen that there had been passage of an animal. And Mike gets up in front of me, and he goes, track right here. And he looks down, and I'm like filming it, and I'm pulling the foliage out of the way so he can see it. And he's dropping the tape measure. There's an 18-inch track right there. And we didn't find any before it or any after it. There probably were, But at that point, we were interested in seeing where it was going. So we kept going further up the hill, and guess what was up there? About 100-year-old abandoned log cabin.
Do they
See,
like
this is Sasquatch Realty.
Right. That's the homestead. They don't mind staying in an abandoned log cabin, or nobody would if you need a place to stay, for that matter.
This comes up really frequently in the South, where you hear lots of reports of old abandoned barns and old abandoned farms, and there's ghosts there, and nobody goes there. Well, how do you know there's ghosts there? Because we hear these horrible cries and howls and stuff coming from there at night that no normal animal makes. Well, there's a Bigfoot living there. It's not haunted. Nobody's living there, so they're taking advantage of it. They don't like getting rained on any more than anybody else. Hey, it's raining. I'll just go hang out in the barn for a little while.
So interesting. And now let's swing back to Glag. At the end of this first year, did Kevin, was he successful in relocating Glag?
Yeah, that's a whole episode right there. And they just went through hell. Kevin did a lot of scouting all over the place, trying to figure out where to move him to. And when they finally did get him moved, it didn't turn out to be a good place. Apparently, there was already a group living there that didn't like him. So he was getting beaten up a lot.
Glag was getting beaten up.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was just a little kid. At that point, he was probably only around 7 feet or a little bit bigger. So to a regular Sasquatch, he was just a runt. And he wasn't part of their group, apparently. They probably didn't like the fact he was hanging around with the humans. So they were being bully-like to him. And Kevin started noticing when he was coming and visiting him that he had bruises on him and stuff, and was looking like he was getting the worst end of something, fighting with something up there. And he couldn't quite get Glag to explain to him what was going on. So being that he was taking Aikido lessons, he decided to try and teach Glag some basic self-defense, which in some cases worked and in other cases was hilariously didn't work because their body is built a little bit different than ours is. So some of the kicking techniques and stuff looked really awkward, and he couldn't quite get them to work properly. But the hand techniques were pretty great. And he, as soon as he figured out how to punch, oh boy, is that cool, because they just hammer fist you with the edge of their hand like a gorilla would punch or something. They don't know about knuckle punching. And Kevin got him to hold his palm of his hand up and did the hammer fist side punching. Like, here's how you guys hit. Here's how we hit. And then he did the crack, snap your hips, give him the little lightning whip, like whipping the wet towel sort of thing. And his hand punched him like that. And he said you should have seen his eyes light up and this big grin came across his face. And then he was like, oh, yeah. He wanted to learn how to do that. So apparently after teaching him for a few months, Kevin was up there and Glag was all excited, wanted to show him something. And showed him he was practicing his front punch, and he had punched this tree that was about 6-8 inches in diameter and shattered it. And then Kevin kind of started thinking, should I really be teaching him this? I want him to defend himself, right, but should I really be teaching him this?
So did Glag leave this location and this group?
They moved him a short distance away from there, apparently, which is all they needed to keep him out of the territory. He got an indication there was something weird going on that he had never really realized what it meant until years later, because he was running around with Glag and they're crossing this field. And on the far side of the field, he saw what looked like a giant X. And Glag shied away and wouldn't go into the woods over there. And at that time, he didn't know anything about tree structures. And he certainly didn't know that was a territorial marker.
Now we've seen these. Okay, we've seen this a lot, yep, right? Two trees, yep, in an X formation. We've yep, got 2 minutes before the break. What is that, Duke?
Well, we're pretty sure it's a territorial marker. As a matter of fact, if they have a tree leaning on one side of it, especially if it's butt end up, that's a warning. Keep out. That's a giant keep out sign. You're insane to go in there if you go past it.
And that's if the roots are up.
Yeah, well, that's if there's anything leaning against one side of it. Roots up, it's even worse. If they make an X structure, it's going to be a clean X structure. And by that, I mean that like 99% of the time, the diameters will be the same. The length will be the same. They will not have any branches on them. Half the time, the bark is ripped off of them. And they're leaning, touching each other. If there's any difference between them, it's not an X structure. It's just natural. Now, if it's an actual X structure, both sides are touching each other. Right, and it's symmetrical.
Now, what do you do if you come upon an X structure?
We just found 3 giant ones weekend before last we had never spotted before. 2 of them we're sure they just built, and the third one may have been there a long time. We haven't been in that area. You check around the area near it to see if there's any tertiary structures, because generally if they build any really big structure, that means the little munchkins are hanging around there. They're little squatchlets or kids. While the adults are putting this stuff up, they get bored and they go, I'm going to copy Dad. And they make their own little version of it. And the one Super X that we had documented, that was exactly what they did there. They had a little tertiary X structure up to the right side of it that apparently the kids had built out of logs that would still be hard for an adult human to move, but little compared to what their adult parents were moving around.
Did you call squatchlets?
Yeah, that's what I call the little ones, the squatchlets.
Now, we got 90 seconds. So I'm a part of the crew now. So we get Glag a new house.
Yep. Well, he's moved safely away from there, and I guess things went pretty well out there for a couple of years. They did a lot of adventuring around, reconning the area. During the summer, go swimming in the rivers, and during the winter, Kevin couldn't get up there as much, and now the distance had increased a lot. So for him to go up there meant he basically had to have the weekend, because it took the better part of a day for him to get there or to get back again.
Right.
So a lot more limited amount of time he was spending with Glag, and he could tell it was really bothering him because they're social just like we are.
Sure.
And he's out there all by himself, and most of the time he doesn't have anybody else around. So when Kevin was there, it was all like woohoo fun time.
Right.
And another thing that Kevin noticed is that they had that little tertiary cave that they would meet at, and of course he would get tired and he'd have to go to sleep. He never saw Glag sleep, and he thought about that years later, and he goes, I think he was awake guarding me all night long when I was sleeping there. He was probably awake the entire time I was out there, from I got there until I left.
Now, weren't there I want to use the word toys, it might be wrong, but the things that Kevin was bringing to Glag, they were at this mid cave.
Yes, some of them were there, and Glag had some of them, I guess, over at his main cave. When they finally parted ways, Glag brought all the stuff back and left it at that midway cave, apparently for Kevin to take back if he wanted it.
Right. And that's going to put a lump in my throat, but we're going to talk about that part of the story next when we come back, and I'm sure that we just got everybody's attention with that one. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Duke Sullivan, World Bigfoot Radio. We're going to run out of time, but here's the good news. We're going to go into overtime. That's a guarantee. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from Rivermoon. Just click on the Rivermoon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs, including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard, available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
Gold loves chaos, uncertainty, and disarray. History shows us what gold does when people aren't sure about the government, the stock market, their jobs, or their retirement savings. Our national debt is skyrocketing. Gold and other precious metals are a defense measure against inflation and a stock market that might take years to recover. So what can you do right now to protect yourself? Call United Gold Group. We offer gold and other precious metals delivered securely within 72 hours. Are you worried about the stock market? We can also help you set up a real gold or silver IRA or a 401k. Safe and secure. United Gold Group makes gold ownership affordable. Call now and get up to $2,500 in free gold or silver with a qualified IRA. Call 800-753-8534. That's 800-753-8534 or visit unitedgoldgroup.com.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I'm late coming back. I'm tweeting, I'm texting, I'm hanging out. And Duke Sullivan is our guest tonight of World Bigfoot Radio. And I got to tell you, Duke, Glag has got a fan club now, man. I mean, he already does. But for those out there, you know, that don't know about this story, and what and relationships like this that can develop, they don't have any idea, and it is touching for sure. But the Glag is cool. That's all I got to say. Glag is cool, and he's got his fans out there now.
Glag is like the Kwai Chang Caine from the old Kung Fu TV series.
No doubt.
Of the Sasquatch world. He roams the hills, righting wrongs, fighting evil bad guys, beating down grizzly bears, saving dumb humans from forest fires. It's his job.
Yeah. It's such an amazing story. So, okay. So where do we leave off? Okay, sort of. Okay, now. 2 years go by, a couple of seasons go by, distance is there. Glag is by himself for most of the time. He's waiting for his bro, right? Kevin to come and visit. And Glag is sad.
Well, Glag is sad because he doesn't have anybody to hang around with him except Kevin, and Kevin progressively can get there less and less. And, at some point it became where it'd be only like every other couple weeks he could get up there and stuff. You could just imagine what it was like for this guy being up there by himself all the time.
Right.
And apparently at some point he found another group up there that at least some of them he could get along with. So there was some kind of interaction going on there. And they weren't, some of them at least weren't hostile. It seems like maybe some of them were too. But, this was a long period of about 3 years where they were having as much contact as Kevin could get up there and do. And during the summer, that was a lot. During the winter, not so much. Because then you're leaving a snowmobile path right up there for anybody to follow. So that's risky too, and he was thinking about that kind of stuff. So eventually, long story short, and there's a couple parts of this saga that are just talking about all the interaction and adventures and different stuff they did, and some of it's very revealing, like when he talks about how they found a cave. They wanted to go in and check out a cave. They didn't have a flashlight with them, and so he just let Glag lead the way. Well, it became immediately apparent to him that Glag could see in pitch black, because they didn't have to go very far in this cave, and Kevin couldn't see anything. He was stumbling all over the place, and he had to stay right behind Glag and basically keep his hand on him to figure out where he was going. Glag seemed to be able to see perfectly well, and there was a debate in the Bigfoot community about them having infravision, being able to see in the infrared spectrum, or some of them say, well, they've seen eye glow, not just eye shine, no actual light hitting their eyes, but yet they're glowing. And again, Kevin was right with him. That's not what was going on. There was no eye glow. There was no eye shine. He didn't have a lighter or a flashlight or anything with him, yet Glag could see perfectly well. And now we've been thinking about this for years, and we know they have very interesting vocal capabilities because we've got recordings of them being able to emit sounds above and below the spectrum we can hear. And sometimes when they show up in an area, every other animal shuts up instantly. Okay, well, for bigger animals, you just make some kind of a predatory call and they'll shut the hell up because they don't want to they're not, dinner. Right. But how do you do that with the little animals? Crickets, mice, things like that. All the little bugs will shut up too. Well, guess what? They're listening to things in the hypersonic range. That's where they communicate at, like dog whistle range. So if you can emit a sound at that range that's really loud to them, they're all going to hear it and shut up. But your intended target doesn't hear it. They just notice everything suddenly went deathly silent. So the question here is, can they echolocate using this capability?
Like a bat?
Exactly like a bat.
Right.
And, Kevin being with him wouldn't have heard it. He could just been putting out little clicks and radar mapping the cave. Is that even possible? Well, here's an interesting parallel. There is a completely blind guy who can mountain bike.
I've seen that. That guy is incredible.
That's how he does it.
He clicks.
Yes, and if a human can learn to do that, imagine how much time they spend underground without a flashlight, and how long do you think it'd take them to figure it out?
You're right. I've seen that guy ride that bike all over city streets, mountain bike, and click his way through an environment. Yeah.
The other thing is we picked this up on some of the videos that researchers have done where they know that they're surrounded by them. And you listen to the audio and you can pull out sounds that they're making in the background. There's a really fabulous channel by a guy called Bigfoot Anthropologist, and that's one of the things he does. He'll take these video recordings and he'll listen to the audio in the background, and he'll take out all the background noises, the wind, people talking, any extraneous noises, and what's left, and he listens to those. And there's this clicking and popping all the time. And especially in the dark, they're maneuvering around in the dark by using this echolocation to map the area so they can walk around completely silently in pitch black.
Makes sense. Right. I got nothing for that. Of course, it would make perfect sense. Oh, so what happens in this cave with Kevin?
Well, apparently Glag went into the point where Kevin was afraid he was going to fall down a bottomless pit or something because he couldn't see anything. It was like being in deep space with no stars around. And he finally just told Glag, let's go back. I can't see anything, buddy. And Glag turned around, and of course he couldn't see Glag, and he couldn't see any eye glow or anything. And then he had to have Glag lead the way back out again and hold on to him to make sure that he didn't fall down a bottomless shaft or something because he couldn't see where he was going. And they made it back out again. And then Kevin decided that's kind of like, I'm not going to go do the cave thing unless I got a flashlight with me again. That was kind of stupid. Even though I got a bulldozer for a friend with me, and I think Glag was like 9 foot tall at that point, so you're fairly confident whatever you run to in the cave, he can take care of it. But you're in the dark while it's going on. You have no idea what's happening. So again, not a good idea.
So there's this moment when Kevin heads back up, and he goes to their little meeting spot, the meeting cave. And all of his stuff is there, right? All of the gifts and things that he had given to Glag over the previous 3 or so years. Tell us about that.
We got to back up because before that happened, here's what leads up to it. He was up there visiting with Glag, and Glag was very excited and nervous. and had obviously something was going on, and Kevin wasn't sure what it was. And he brought out this young female Sasquatch, stepped out from behind the tree, let him see her. She was very shy and like, humans aren't supposed to see me. Why am I doing this? I like you and everything, but this is crazy. You let a human see me. So he, basically in his way, and at that point he had fairly good communication skills with Kevin. He explained that was his girlfriend. And at this point, again, keep in mind, he's like, maybe 9 years old. So this isn't like, mating for life or anything. It's like I found somebody else that's a Sasquatch that'll put up with me because I hang around with a human and I'm weird. And shortly after that, I think it was the next time he was out there, or maybe it was the next day. You guys will have to go back and listen to the show because I can't remember. We recorded this years ago. He was there with Glag, and Glag was getting very nervous. And Kevin couldn't understand what had him so agitated. And then all of a sudden, abruptly, he heard this noise, and Glag grabbed him by the forearm and ran up a tree with him, holding him in one hand by the forearm, and tried to put him on one of the top branches. This immediately dislocated Kevin's shoulder.
Right.
Because human arms aren't built to hold your entire weight. We're not strong enough to do that. You Sasquatch are. They can do a chin up with one arm. We can't do that. So Kevin's like in blazing pain and freaking out. And why did Glag grab my arm and yank me up this tree 30 feet? And Glag shinnies down the tree and starts to leave, and then turns around and comes back and climbs right up the tree to him and looks at him again with this really concerned look and says, "Gun. Gun." And Kevin goes, "Yeah, I got it right here, buddy," and reaches down to his waist with his other good arm that he could actually maneuver with. And Glag goes, stay here," or something along those lines. And he takes off, goes back down the tree, and goes off into the woods. Then, after a short interval, there's this huge racket, and he can hear Glag arguing with something. And there's a bunch of yelling and shouting going back and forth, and he doesn't understand what they're saying. And finally, at some point, Glag yelled no. And then, according to him, just hell broke loose. And I had him describe this to me like 3 or 4 times, and he just pretty much broke down every time. It was hard for him to describe it, but He said it was just the most hellacious racket you've ever heard. It sounded like, 3 bulldozers battling each other out in this field. Everything was getting torn to hell, trees getting ripped down, and the whole thing. And then apparently Glag won, because after a while he came back, and he couldn't even help Kevin get out of the tree. He just slumped down at the base of it, and Kevin had to climb down the tree with only one good arm and try to console his buddy and see if he was okay. He said he had bruises all over him, and he was just exhausted. And then Kevin had the hellacious problem of, I'm in the middle of the nowhere, and I got a dislocated arm, and I have to ride a mountain bike back out of here again. And it's going to take me most of a day to do it. This is going to suck really bad. So apparently what happened is that group decided that they didn't want Glag interacting with their sister, some other member of the group. We don't know. We're assuming it was that group. It could have been some other cryptid entirely. We just have no way of knowing. Kevin never saw him. He didn't have a clear enough definition on any of the sounds. He said it all sounded like something Sasquatch could have done. So sound-wise, there was no way to tell it was anything else. But that was kind of the end for that for a while. Kevin healed up his arm and stuff and came back again. And it met Glag. I think he met Glag one more time. And then after that, Glag showed him the young female again. And, I'm going to hang out with her now. And when Kevin came up, all of the stuff that he had given Glag over the years was in that intermediate cave, including things that he didn't think Glag was saving, like, several popped red rubber balls that they had played with years before. Yes. Glag still had for some reason. It was all memorability of his buddy Kevin.
I remember my friends telling me this part of the story, and I'm looking around my dinner table, and everybody's crying, right? I mean, it was just like, this emotional thing. It was the red balls that they were playing with, and Glag brought those back. How did Kevin take it? Really hard. Yeah. That was his best friend, basically. Right. And, it was like he blamed himself a bunch because he just hadn't had the time to get up there and hang out with them.
And, at this point, he was getting out of high school and he was ready to leave and go away for college and everything, too. So, it's like, well, part of this is my fault because I haven't been up here enough, and he's got to have somebody to hang around with. But on the other hand, I wanted him to actually go back and be with his own people and be safe.
Of course.
And it seems like that's what he's doing, so I'm happy for him. And then Kevin didn't have any contact with Glag for 30 years after that.
Did you say 30?
Yep.
Okay. Let's keep going. Okay, so they part ways, and Kevin is, as rough as this is to hear, and for Kevin to go through, Glag's got to go and do his own thing, right? Glag's not going to go and work at Costco and be Kevin's roommate.
Kevin's got to go off to college, and he's got to get his degree, and that's out of state, and it'll be a couple years before he can even get back and go see if Glag's there, which he did. And Glag was never back there again. He went back several times and tried to find him, and Glag wasn't back there. And so he just figured, that was the last farewell. He went off to be with his people. Now he's not allowed to be with humans. He left all the toys that we played with when he was a kid for me to take care of, and I'll probably never see him again. And then Kevin moved down to the south. He lived in Missouri and over in the desert states for years and years and years and years. As a matter of fact, he was living in Arkansas when he died. He was way down south. But at some point, he got involved with the Bigfoot community again. He told me his story, and I want to stress that he did not ever want to tell this story publicly. He told it to me privately because he wanted to get it off his chest before he died, that somebody would hear this story that might understand it and wouldn't ridicule him. And then I pestered him for 2 months. This story is too good. It's true. You've got to tell this to the rest of the world. This is super important. This is the longest term interaction between a human and a Sasquatch that anyone has ever heard of. And I'm 100% convinced that you're telling me a true story. So please, please, please come on and tell this story. And he's like, dude, it's like 5 years. You know how many shows that's going to take? And I'm like, I don't care. Let's do it. Mm-hmm. So we did it, and it was, ridiculously popular at the time that it was coming out, and everybody wanted to meet Kevin. They wanted to go to conventions. They wanted to talk with him and stuff, so his time was at a premium after that. And he did a lot of that stuff, and everybody that met him and went out and did Bigfoot research with him or something will vouch for him 100%. And then he ended up getting a contact with a couple people in the Sasquatch community that went, Kevin, these guys are psychic. They all have mind speak. It may have been that Glag was too little when you knew him, and he didn't know how to do it. But I bet he knows how to do it now. Would you like us to try and contact him? And he's like, well, sure, see what you can find out. Well, 2 of them came back to him and said, yeah, we got in contact with Glag. And he's like, yeah, sure, right, you did. Okay, tell me something that I didn't tell in my story. They both told him several things he didn't tell in the story that absolutely happened. So that really freaked him out. And he's like, well, they could be, channeling spirits or something and whatever. I don't know if it's absolutely going to be Glag or whatnot. And then
well, let me ask you a question, especially before we get to the break. You're in Montana now, but this Glag story takes place where?
Idaho, about maybe 200 miles away from me, so not very long distance according to Sasquatch mileage.
Because I was listening to you and Kevin, right? You guys are talking, and Kevin's on the phone. Kevin's like, yeah, man, I'm coming back to Idaho. And I stopped listening at that point. I was listening to you guys talk back and forth, but you had asked Kevin, I'm paraphrasing here, are you coming back? He said, yes, I'm coming back to Idaho. So without giving away the location or anything like that, but Kevin was traveling from where back to Idaho?
Arkansas, and it ended up that he did not make it all the way back to Idaho. He never made it back there. He came up here to Montana with me because 2 people from the south were going to make the drive all the way up here just to go out with my research team. And Kevin was like, hey, can I tag a ride with you guys? I haven't been up there in the Big Timber in 30 years. And they're like, sure, so he came with them. And before he left, he contacted the psychics and said, have you heard anything from Glag? And they said, yeah, he wants to meet you again. And Kevin said, well, I don't think I'm going to get to Idaho, but I'm going to be over in western Montana. And I'm going to be at such and such a place. It's a ghost town, which I'm sure Bigfoot don't know the name of the ghost towns. So apparently he had the psychics. He explained to the psychics where it is in relation to this whole cluster of there's a town here, which is kind of peculiar in this area because there aren't very many towns. So they kind of stand out from a Sasquatch point of view.
Sure.
And where in relation to the town was it going to be? And there was a ghost town there. Well, they like the ghost towns. They all hang around in those anyway. They probably have a name for it and know what it is. So one of the psychics contacted him back and said, I talked to Glag, and Glag said he's going to be there and meet you when you get there. And Kevin's like, yeah, right, whatever. Oh, wouldn't that be nice, you know? So he gets here, we drive up there, and we had so much gear with us, we had to go back and meet one of the other guys at the airport, so we had to drop off a bunch of gear at the ghost town. And while we're up there, you know, there's a whole selection of old fallen down log buildings you can stash your gear in. And we're going over and putting it in one of them, and I go, do you feel that? And Kevin goes, yeah, there's one of them here right now. You could feel it. It was electric. It was like there was a huge generator near you. So we took the backpacks and everything, and we put them in the shack, and we said, okay, guys, we'll be back tomorrow. Don't let the pack rats steal anything while we're gone. And we took off, and we came back. And sure enough, the next night, Kevin had the same feeling again. And this time, after 30 years, he realized not only is it a Bigfoot, that's Glag. That was Glag's presence that he felt the night before, and Glag was back again. So we're sitting around the campfire telling, you know, Bigfoot stories and being all big-time adventurer guys. He goes walking out in the woods by himself, walks about 150 feet from camp, and there's Glag in the woods waiting for him.
What happened?
He said he was kind of, he was at a loss for words. He had a whole ton of things he wanted to ask him, and at the moment he was just so shocked he couldn't ask them. And he asked him a few questions, and apparently Glag had his family there with him. He has 2 sons. They're about 10 feet tall. One of them he actually named after Kevin. The other one's got a traditional Sasquatch name, I would assume. The young female that he was with years before, he's still with her. That's his mate. And she's even more shy about being around humans. Glag said she had been shot twice since she had met Kevin. Some, you know, punk hunters or something took a shot at. This is common with Bigfoot. People see something, they don't know what it is, they shoot at them.
Right.
Another good reason for them to avoid us. But one of his 2 sons had a little baby that he said was like barely bigger than a toddler human, so really recently born, that he showed Kevin. He was all proud and everything. And he said, I asked him, I said, well, how much different did Glag look? And he goes, well, pretty much the same. He's got mutton chops now that would make Elvis proud. But other than that, he just got a little bit gray and he's bigger. And I said, how much bigger? And he goes, well, he got a lot bigger. A lot bigger. I went, well, what's your estimate? And he goes, well, his footprint is about 11 inches wide and 26 and a half inches long. And I estimate that he was me, a couple of me, plus a little bit more, so around 14 feet, I think. I'm going like, oh, my God.
Does that surprise you, 14 feet and that kind of size?
They do get that big occasionally. It is reported. Blaine Tyler, that I've had on my show, accidentally caught one on a long pan and then went back and filmed right where it was at and checked the height next to a tree that it was standing next to. And that thing was between 16 and 17 feet tall. And it was built like the Hulk. This is in Northeast Ontario. And he got it on video. And then when I was looking at his video in slow motion, I noticed a nice gray 9-footer about 80 feet away from him that he hadn't even spotted in the video, much closer to him watching him as he's doing this quick pan off to the left and catches this other huge one.
Now, so you were there. You were there with Kevin. What did you see? And what did you see?
I did not get a chance to see Glag, unfortunately. Kevin actually took Brent Thomas from Paranormal Portal up to see Glag, and Brent got to see him. Brent didn't bring his glasses with, so he got to see a towering 14-foot shadow.
Right.
But he got to see him. The next day, Kevin wanted to bring me up to meet him and kind of took me away from the crowd. And then 2 of the other researchers tagged along, and apparently Glag didn't trust them. So when he took me up the hill, he wouldn't come out in the open. So sadly, I have not had a chance to see him yet, although I do hold out hope that at some point in the future I might. But yeah, Brent and him, and there was one other, I'm trying to remember which guy in the group it was. Travis saw one of them, and I'm not sure if it was Glag or if it was one of his kids. We think it was one of his kids. because right next to the ghost town where we were, there was a little back valley down there that we absolutely won't go in. It's super creepy vibes. And there's a super haunted shack right up on top of the hill above it. And for some reason, these two people in this VW van pulled in there late after dark. And they could hear, obviously, that we were not that far, like maybe 150 yards from them, but didn't come over and say hi or anything, just parked there. So me and Michael and Travis had walked a long way around and went up to this really creepy shack. And I had already left, and Michael and Travis are still there. And Travis was around the back side of it, and he was looking down into the valley, and he could see the lights from their VW van. And he was watching this huge black shadow just inside the forest poke its head up and look, and then poke back down again. And then stand up and look, and poke back down again. And he turns around behind, he says, "Mike, are you seeing this?" And he realizes Mike isn't there. He's up there by himself watching this. At which point he decided he had seen enough cool things, and he came quickly back to camp himself. Now, the epilogue to this story is at 4 o'clock in the morning. That van mysteriously decided to leave in one big hurry. They were bottoming out that thing going up that wash, smashing it up literally. You could hear them shooting gravel. They were peeling out of there as fast as they could at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I don't think they were like trying to get to the nearest Perkins for breakfast, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, right.
So...
how did Kevin get to say goodbye?
Well, as far as I know, that may not have been the last time that he talked to Glag, because after that he was down at Dee Sims' property, and she has him around her property. He was down there at night several times, and she had this huge female show up. And Kevin said, "Is that Grandma?" And she's like, What do you mean, Grandma? There's this huge gray female named Grandma. And, so anyway, long story short, next thing you know, he's back in Arkansas, and a couple weeks later, Grandma shows up. So apparently Grandma at this point is really old, and she's forgetting you're not supposed to talk to humans, even ones that know Sasquatch are real. So one night while Kevin's out on the back porch, she just comes ambling up and starts talking to him and tells him that she is actually the great aunt of Glag.
Oh.
And she was huge. One of the things that freaked out Kevin, because he's seen a bunch of the ones down south, and they just don't get that big. And she's like over 10 feet tall, which for a female down south is like, holy bleep, where did you come from? Well, she came from up here originally, and she moved down there. Her mate was down there, so she went down there to live with him. And now she's really, really, really old and getting kind of befuddled and doddering and not remembering you're not supposed to talk to humans. So she told Kevin that was, she was the great aunt of Glag, and that he was planning on coming down and spending some time with her so he would get to see Glag again, which apparently he did, although I'm not privy to what their conversation was.
Now, this is, we're going to take a break right here, but about 3 years ago, a friend of mine had this Bigfoot sighting. I had left to my hotel about a half hour before this. It happened about 2:30 in the morning. But anyway, there was this big van with the extended top on it, right? Big van. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know how tall that is, but, 8 feet maybe 9 feet to the top of the camper extension. And so anyway, he stops me right there. "Bigfoot, last night after you left." I said, "Where?" He goes, "Right here." I go, "What do you mean?" "Next to this van." And I said, "What did he say?" He said, "I heard the grunting, but this is the point that I want to make about the size." He said the Bigfoot came out from in front of the van and was taller than this camper van, right? Yeah. And I'm standing there and I'm thinking, no, can't be that. Really? And I'm standing there. I can see, I'm 6 foot. I can't touch the top of this. And he's saying it was taller than the van and was standing in front of the van, and he's like, it was this big, indicating, 9 or maybe 10 feet tall. Yeah. And I wasn't buying what he was selling. It just seemed too big to me, Duke. You're probably just not surprised.
Not surprised at all. As a matter of fact, I think the majority of the sightings that people have are of the juveniles and the teenagers. They're the ones that are dumb and will take risks and get spotted. The big adults are smart enough to stay where humans won't see them. They've had years to practice. The only time you see one of those big ones is if they want you to see them. And if they want you to see them, you could be in serious trouble.
Let's take our break right here. Let's get into overtime with Duke Sullivan. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Duke Sullivan, World Bigfoot Radio. The entire Glag story is over on Duke's YouTube channel. It's right there, the Glag saga, and there's a few different sections to this presentation. I encourage everybody to go and check it out. It's absolutely amazing. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Overtime next. Stay with us.
Here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today, and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30 days free on ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back. Fade to Black, overtime with Duke Sullivan. You saw this coming. This is no surprise. What a great show tonight. And Duke, just thank you. And this is one of many shows that we're going to be doing in the future. But just thank you so much. And I've told everybody where to go for the Glag saga, and it's just an amazing story. But this is where, when we get into overtime, I like to kind of change gears and have some fun. But I want to ask you about Bigfoot videos. They pop up. I check them out. I've seen a few over the last year that I'm not going to, bring up the specifics, but there's always, for me, something that isn't quite right or lacking. What do we do about this? How do we separate what's real and what is not?
Oh, man, that's super difficult. Before I answer that question, let me digress to something you asked earlier in the show and didn't get back to. Where are the most Bigfoot sightings?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Here's an interesting question, and this requires some dissection, because how do you define who's having the most Bigfoot sightings? If you go by the BFRO's website, they'll tell you Washington and Oregon State have the most sightings. If you go according to some of the other websites, squatchable.com is really good too. You might find out that actually there's, between Class A, B, and C, Oklahoma might have the most, because they're up close to 1,200. Now, there's another metric for this too, which is in order to have a Bigfoot sighting, you have to have a human sighting it. Okay? So in terms of actual total numbers of sightings, some of these places have more sightings, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's more Bigfoot there. So really what you're looking at is a per capita number. How many people are there in the area? How many sightings are coming out of the area? And if you go in terms of per capita numbers, Alaska and Montana win, because we have small populations and tons of sightings.
Very interesting. There's a few things. I want to get back to the videos, but as quickly as we can before we run out of time. There's also another aspect to this that I find very intriguing, and that is an interdimensionality, spirituality, consciousness aspect to Bigfoot that a lot of people reference and talk about. Is there, what side of the fence are you on? Bigfoot being just a species that's hiding in the forest from us? Or is Bigfoot something that is interdimensional, maybe not even from planet Earth?
Well, let me preface that by saying that I'm a flesh and blood guy. Okay, everything is physical, blah, blah, blah. I don't have any psychic abilities. And so for years, I've been studying everything through the lens of just what a scientist would look at, show me the evidence. With the difference being that I don't have any preconceived notion that I'm going to get my funding yanked if I come up with something crazy. I'm going to look at every piece of evidence that comes my way and see if there's anything to it. And some of it's not repeatable. You only hear this one weird story one time. And other times you start hearing these really weird stories that repeat from different people in different parts of the country. And you go, wait. There's something going on here. And then when you start seeing examples of it yourself, you start having to go, there's definitely something going on here. They've got some kind of strange abilities that we don't understand. And even what I consider the most accredited Bigfoot researcher on the planet right now, Dr. Igor Burtsev, again, the head of the Department of Hominology and subdivision of the Department of Evolutionary Science in Moscow, Russia. He's been putting butt-in-the-field boots on the ground for decades. As a matter of fact, his first field trip to look for Bigfoot was 2 years before the Patterson-Gimlin film was filmed. Okay, so he's been doing it forever, and I'm part of his organization and everything. And the last time I had him on my show was episode 100, and I pinned him down and I said, Igor, why is it so hard for us to get a clear picture of these guys? Why is it so hard for us to find physical evidence? Why is it so hard to capture one? And he said, because they have paranormal abilities we don't understand yet. He's seen it firsthand over and over and over again. And, a lot of it is because they're clever and they do things that we can figure out how to do. They're just better at it. And another thing is that people always just think, well, they don't have any technology or anything. They're just, dumb, long-haired hippies living out in the woods or something. Technology does not mean we're superior to them. It does not make us superior to them. As a matter of fact, let me invert that. We're inferior to them. And here's my thinking on this. They don't need clothes. They don't need fire. They don't need guns. They don't need anything. They can go live in an Arctic environment year-round and need no technology at all. You take somebody like Survivor Man and drop him out there without a winter coat or a lighter or anything, he's dead in a couple days.
Yeah, there's going to be a
with all
problem.
his skills, yeah. So in a way, if you look at it, the technology is kind of a crutch for us. That's what keeps us alive, because we're not really adapted to this planet that we supposedly came from. How peculiar is that? We need all this weird stuff in order to stay alive on this planet we supposedly originated on. And they don't. Who really originated here?
Yeah, we can't survive out in the open elements. I mean, that's it. You've got days, and that's just the way that it is.
Yeah, and that's even if you're highly skilled expert at survivalism and you've got some of the stuff you need with you, your time is limited. You need to get the hell back out of there and find humans, or you're probably not going to live.
No, that's just the way that it is. But then it is easier for me to resolve the issues. No bodies. The lack of and thing. Look, when people say, "Well, you're not going to find a chimpanzee corpse. You're not going to find a deer. You're not going to find." Well, yeah, but we do. Okay,
yeah.
So
very
don't say
rarely.
it's rare.
Yeah,
but
one fossil chimp, but it does happen. You're right.
it happens, and you can hit a deer. You can hit a bear. Yep. We haven't hit a Sasquatch on a Montana freeway.
Oh wait, we have.
Okay,
this has happened.
Okay, hold the phone on that. But my point being, the interdimensionality aspect of this, stepping in and out of portals or whatever, kind of resolves that issue for me, and I'm more okay with that than pandas hiding in the forest, right? Okay, so that being said, you just said somebody hit a Bigfoot on the freeway.
This has actually happened multiple times. There's been big logging trucks and stuff that have hit them. And there's some governmental agency that shows up with a cleanup crew to haul the corpse away and to threaten the person that hit them. This has happened several times. We've had the people involved actually come forward and talk about it. This is no surprise whatsoever. Department of the Interior and Forestry is the higher up ones. Actually know what's going on, and they're doing their very damnedest to cover it up. And they don't like it when researchers like Blaine show up in Algonquin Park and go, "Hey, do you guys ever get any Bigfoot sightings up here?" And they go, "No, there's no such thing." And he goes, "Oh, really? You want to see pictures of some that I just took in your park today?" They really don't like that.
Now, okay, so back to no, I have I've communicated with a few different people out there about the feds coming in and retrieving bodies. But let's get back to the films. How do we separate a real Bigfoot video from something that's being hoaxed?
It's really tough. Usually you don't get them on video. People get pictures of them because if they know there's a human observing them, they won't move. They'll stay in one place and they'll look like an inanimate object to the best of their capability. So, and the other thing is their hair has weird properties to it that tends to refract or collect the light. It's hard to describe, but it doesn't have a medulla, and it's basically transparent, even though it's got color in parts of it. So whatever sort of object they're sitting next to, if they're in the light especially, their hair will pick up the color of that object, and that will break up their outline to the point where our pattern recognition won't see it as a recognizable object, because part of it is like the color of the tree it's next to.
What, like Predator or something like that?
No, they can do that too. But no, this is just a natural thing their hair can do. If they're sitting in the shadow, they're just darker than the shadow they're sitting in, which again is a giveaway. But if they're partially out in the light, the part that's in the light, whatever it's next to, will tend to pick up that color. And I know people that have hair samples, and I've told them about this, and while I was on the phone with them, they went and checked it out and went, "Oh my God, you're right."
So standing next to a
thing, and it's that color.
Standing next to a green tree, they could possibly
the part
be
of
green.
it that was next to the tree would look like it was green, so that would tend to break up their outline. All they have to do is humans are very much based on movement. If we don't see something move, we don't necessarily have a pattern recognition for it. And if you're thinking about an object that's its legs are as thick as trees, and it's huge. We don't have a pattern recognition for that to start with because it's not supposed to exist. All it has to do is not move, and our mind goes, "Well, that's just a tree." And we just look right past it.
Now, you've got, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but if I go to World Bigfoot Radio, your YouTube channel. What do you post up there as far as videos go?
Well, what I do is interviews with some of the top flight researchers on the planet that have really great evidence to show. And some of them collect enough that they're on the show once or twice a year to do updates. These people all really know what they're doing. They get really good evidence that they can post. And as far as video goes, when you see a really great picture of Bigfoot, maybe not a Bigfoot, because again, keep in mind that weird property that their hair has. If you get an actual authentic picture of a Bigfoot, they tend to look kind of blurry. And everybody's always like, why can't you get a clear picture of them? Dude, take the best camera you can and try and get a clear picture. And I guarantee you, it's going to come out blurry. And Mitch didn't realize that he was right when he was joking about that. It isn't that the cameras are all screwed up. It's that Bigfoot is just blurry. And that's very disturbing. There's a huge blurry monster we know nothing about running around the woods right now. And Mitch, when he was making that joke, didn't realize how dead on he is. They literally are that way. So first, telling point, if you see something that's really, really clear, probably not a Sasquatch. Another thing is body proportion. They are not built like humans are. Their shins are shorter. Their forearms are longer. When they walk, they tend to swing their limbs, especially their upper limbs, because their locomotion is tightrope. They don't step side by side like we do, and that's another easy way you can tell their trails, because it's one foot right in front of the other. Very peculiar looking. Humans don't walk that way. And it's because of the way their hips are built and the way they have to swing their legs, and that's why they swing their arms, to maintain their balance. It also is part of the reason why they lean forward when they're going, because I've actually been able to almost duplicate this walk, and I can only do it going uphill, where you naturally have to lean forward in order to do it. Right. If I try and do it going downhill around the level, I can't maintain my balance. But they're built different than we are, so apparently they can do it. And you may have seen video of Grover Krantz, a famed Bigfoot scientist, doing that. He was up on a couple tables walking along trying to do the Bigfoot walk and explained it to the camera crew. And he had it pretty close to down, too. But it's just so unnatural for a human to walk that way. And that's, again, a dead giveaway. If you're out in the woods and you see huge tracks and they're in a straight line, they're not side by side like humans walk, well, Bigfoot track.
The hang on for a second. Let me get this out. I'm gonna hit everybody with your Bigfoot channel. You've got hundreds of videos up here, and it's a pretty extensive channel, and I've spent a lot of time there. When you go out and you're in the middle of a project right now, you were telling me right before the show tonight, and I would like to talk about that, but have you been able to capture what you think is something definitive?
Well, I just turned out episode 120 about a month and a half ago, and that was me and the full team doing recon of Hidden Valley, or as we like to call it, Valley of the Giants. We've been up there for 5 years now, so they're getting too close to us, and we're catching them on video. And I've had a lot of researchers that are actually better than I am have sent me screenshots and or timestamps and going, Duke, there's one right here. Duke, there's one right here. And the ones that I've actually pulled out and looked at so far, and I'm still working on this because I'm busy making other videos and doing more research, but one of them is very, very convincing. As a matter of fact, if you go to my YouTube channel right now, that picture's up on my community tab. I apparently zoomed right in on one for about 13 seconds. And again, Mr. Blaine Tyler from the Bigfoot Barn up in Ontario, Canada, spotted it and sent me the screen capture of it. And then I had to go back and find the piece of video. And yeah, I do not know what was happening there. I can't remember if I heard something, if I saw something move, or if I just noticed the object and went, that doesn't look normal. And I zoomed in on it. But two different screen captures I've looked at so far, you can actually see the tilt of the head is different. He was moving. And he's got his face down, he's lying behind a log, and he's got just his eyes and the bridge of his nose peeking up, looking at you.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at it.
He was about 80
here.
feet from me. Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here, and you can see all of this. This is when you go to the community tab, scroll down past Duke's mug for Fade to Black, and then right below that is this screen capture, and it's pretty cool. It says right there from 120. Valley of the Giants. Now, you are in the middle of, you're going to be doing editing tonight, but you're in the middle of some recon. What are you going to be doing?
Well, this is really different for us, Jimmy. We usually just try and stick strictly to the Bigfoot research and stay away from some of the other stuff. But recently, one of our members, who is like Aragorn from Lord of the Rings and is a total ranger, he figured out where the megaliths are in Montana. And there's somebody that's been has a website called Montana Megaliths, Julie Ryder, and she's been putting up pictures of these things for years, but she won't tell anybody where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now our ranger found out where they are, and our team's been over there for a couple of weeks now. As a matter of fact, half the team was over there the last time we were up doing Bigfoot research and getting more video, which I haven't even released yet, by the way. And they've got some really astounding pictures of some of these supposed dolmens over there. One of them, I think, is actually legit. It could be one of the largest dolmens on Earth. So the other ones look like maybe natural because it's 40 miles of batholiths, giant boulders all over the place. But this stuff looks really peculiar. And like I said, I'm pretty sure at least a couple of them are not natural. So we're going to go over there with our team Friday and Saturday and run around and do a lot of measurements and try and get as much video as we can. And that's the next thing. And then it's back to the Sasquatch research again. But I know some archaeologists and stuff. Once I have some measurements and video I can send to them, they'll be able to make a call on it and go, nah, it's just a jumble of boulders. Or I'm coming over with my team to look at that now, Duke. Where was it exactly?
Well, and have you been following, I know that you talk to Eric Awakening Man a lot, and he's posting, what he thinks is intriguing videos all the time. And have you seen this video of what looks like Bigfoot taking a bath in this lake or river? And Eric posted it, said, this may be some of the most amazing Bigfoot footage I have ever seen. Have you taken a look at that video?
It's supposed to be a female walking across a river carrying a baby.
Yes.
I have not had a chance to actually do a breakdown on that, although I suspect as popular as it is right now, Thinker Thunker will probably tackle it here shortly and do a breakdown on it. And let me recommend his channel to everyone. This guy has got the skills and the know-how and the training, and he's really interested in this sort of thing. And when a piece of video like that pops up, he will generally do a breakdown on it. And he is really, really good at being able to make a call on whether it's BS or it's legit.
Yeah, I'm looking for the video here. I don't see it. Eric, did you pull it down for some reason? I don't see it here. I watched it, and what I was more interested in was the comments from everybody going, you know what, this looks pretty good. Where normally, people react and debunk things pretty quickly, which I didn't see on this video. But Eric, I don't see the video here anymore. I know you're listening.
Put it back up.
Yeah. Eric, what's up with the video?
Yeah.
So you haven't seen it yet?
No, I have not. It's actually up on my group, and I've just been so busy I haven't even had a chance to watch it.
Yeah, I watched a clip of it, but like I said, I was watching everybody's reactions, and that's where I usually gauge things. But Eric, did you pull this down? Man, I'm going to text him. I know he's listening right now.
Uh-oh, Eric's in trouble.
Yeah, man. I'm. Where is the video of the female? Where is the video of the female Bigfoot in the lake with her kid? ? Post it. Okay.
I think she's wading a river, but yeah, he probably knows which one you're talking about.
Yeah, and I found that very interesting, and I wanted to get your take on it. It was for something to be so positively received in a community that is ready to just shoot something down, very quickly.
Absolutely. Well, there's a bunch of people that, if you've got the right ones watching it and they know what they're talking about, and they weigh in and go, yeah, this looks legit to me. Well, all the people that know who they are and trust their opinion will go, oh, okay, well, it's probably legit. Because some of these guys have been looking at this stuff. They've been seeing them in real life maybe for decades. So they see a video or something, they got a pretty good idea whether it's true or not, whether it's made up or not. And, again, some of the ones that look really good, when you check them out a little bit closer, it's like, well, no, that's a guy in a suit. Because, again, the proportions are like a human, even if they're more massive and muscular or whatever. The movement is like a human.
The last question that I have for you is probably one of the big ones, and which is this. It's the Bigfoot UFO connection. You know, you've got a UFO sighting, and then Bigfoot shows up a couple of minutes later. You see Bigfoot, a couple of minutes later, there's lights in the sky. Is there a connection?
I know a bunch of researchers that claim that when the Space Boys show up, the Bigfoot run for the hills and try to get away from them. And one of them in particular, who is the second in command of the entire international Hominology for the world, she's in charge of North America. She's been on my show talking about that. And this is a long answer, so we really don't have time for it. But let me refer everybody over to a show called Sasquatch Full Disclosure, which is on my Rumble channel. And the reason it's on my Rumble channel is if I put it up on YouTube, I wouldn't have a channel.
Okay.
So if you want to check it out, it's over there. Go check it out. And she will tell you exactly what she thinks is going on. Short version is she's unsure of where the Sasquatch came from. I have theories on that. She's not willing to state because she doesn't know for sure. But she is fairly certain that there's one of the alien races playing around here on Earth that are trying to either enslave or exterminate them. Mm-hmm. And she's fairly certain it's the Zetas.
I've heard things very similar to this, Duke. And I just don't. The reason why I have to have a complete open mind to this is Sasquatch Bigfoot has been very successful in avoiding us on every single level. And there's got to be something else here that isn't explained. Look, we discover species all the time. We go to the Amazon rainforest, and the numbers are there's 8.8 to 10 million species right now on planet Earth, but only 1.5 million have been cataloged and discovered. Okay, this is what the universities will teach you. All right, okay, I'll buy into that. But Sasquatch is pretty big. This is smart too. Yeah. We're not talking a little bug. No. And I can't figure out why we haven't made the discovery yet. Pandas were pretty evasive for thousands of years.
Yeah, think about how dumb pandas are.
Yes.
They can barely walk and chew bamboo at the same time. And it took us over 50 years from the time when somebody went, hey, there's this thing called a panda, and everybody went, and then two big game hunters went and bagged one. Guess who those were? That was Teddy Roosevelt's kids that actually killed one.
That's right.
And brought it in.
That's right.
And pandas are dumb, and they live in a very predictable environment at a very predictable altitude, and still took 50 years for somebody to bag one. Bigfoot are very smart. They can live anywhere in almost any environment. They're very evasive. And to add three problems on top of that, they don't want to be found. Our government doesn't want them to be found. And they have paranormal abilities that will help protect that they won't be found. And almost every native tribe on the continent will tell you they walk in two worlds. They're not only here in our world, but they can pierce the veil and go into another one that we can't get to. And that's where you see the tracks appear in the middle of nowhere, disappear again. And they're so damn heavy. And we've seen this too. You're talking about how deep those tracks were in the ground. We found tracks from a juvenile. They're 10 inches long. My foot is 12 inches. Mike's is 13. We were standing next to that track, and it looked like a cookie cutter. It had squished the ground down about 1.5 inches deep. I'm standing next to it with my 12-inch foot. I weigh 240. No mark on the ground at all.
Yeah, I know.
Mike weighs 275, and he's standing next to it. No mark on the ground at all. They're tremendously heavy.
I did the same thing, and I did nothing but scratch my head and try to figure. It didn't compute, Duke. It didn't compute. Well, listen, you've got a lot of work to do tonight. I've got to run credits and get out of here. I want to thank you for an absolute amazing conversation. After you get your stuff done, let's circle back in about a month or so and pick up where we're leaving off tonight, Duke. Thank you so much.
Right on, brother. I'll have you some nice video from one of my from one of my shows that I turned out this summer to show you some Bigfoot. By then, you already seen one of the pictures. There's 18 timestamps in that video I have to go look at.
Thank you so much, Duke. Enjoy the rest of your night. You've got a lot to do. Thank you so much. What a great show.
You're very welcome. Don't hug the Wookiee, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Don't hug the Wookiee. Thank you so much, Duke Sullivan. All of Duke's links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. What a wonderful story. Head over to World Bigfoot Radio on YouTube. You'll get the complete Glag saga. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Paulman, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is only copyrighted 2021 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. Everybody get ready for tomorrow night. Until then, be safe. It's time to fade to black. Thank you so much, Duke. Have a great night.